What's going on, everyone? It's Harry FLX here. We've got something amazing for you today. What if Bruce Wayne witnessed Harry's abuse at age 6 and adopted him, then trained him as the Wizard Batman? Real quick, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Join thousands of story lovers and hit that subscribe button. Alright, story time. Chapter 1, The Boy Under the Stairs. Bruce Wayne hated London rain. It wasn't the wetness that bothered him, Gotham had plenty of that. It was the polite, persistent drizzle that somehow felt dishonest compared to Gotham's dramatic downpours. 5 days into his business trip, and the weather matched his mood perfectly, gray, cold, and irritatingly passive-aggressive. "The acquisition looks promising, Mr. Fox," Bruce said into his phone, watching pedestrians hurry past the cafe window. "But something feels off about their R&D division. I need another day to look into it." "Take all the time you need," Lucius replied. "It's not every day Wayne Enterprises expands its European footprint." Bruce ended the call and sipped his coffee, mentally reviewing the tech company's financials. The caffeine barely dented his fatigue. His nighttime activities hadn't stopped just because he was in London. Batman might be Gotham's guardian, but Bruce had packed a more portable version of his equipment. 3 arms dealers were probably still wondering how they'd ended up unconscious and zip-tied outside Scotland Yard last night. A commotion outside the cafe window caught his attention. A massive walrus of a man with a purple face was yanking a small boy by the arm through the shopping center. The contrast was striking, the man enormous, well-fed, and expensively dressed, the boy tiny, swimming in clothes several sizes too large, with glasses held together by tape. "Keep up, boy," the man hissed. "Your aunt's waiting, and you've wasted enough of our time." "Sorry, Uncle Vernon," the child whispered, stumbling as he tried to match the man's pace. "I didn't mean to." "Didn't mean to what? Embarrass us? Make a scene? Just like your worthless father." Bruce's grip tightened around his coffee cup. The casual cruelty in the man's voice triggered something primal in him. He'd heard that tone before, in the voices of criminals who'd crossed the line from opportunistic to sadistic. The boy looked up, and for a moment, his eyes met Bruce's through the window. Brilliant green eyes, filled with a quiet resignation that no child should ever have. Then the moment passed as the man yanked him around a corner. Bruce left money on the table and followed. Something about those eyes. He caught sight of them again near a department store entrance. The large man was now accompanied by a horse-faced woman and an equally rotund boy who appeared to be around the same age as the small one. The family contrast was stark. Both adults doted on the larger child while barely acknowledging the small boy's existence. "Dutters, what would you like for your new room?" the woman cooed. "We can get you anything you want." "I want a new computer. And a TV." And, while they fawned over Dutters, the small boy stood apart, eyes downcast, shoulders hunched in a posture Bruce recognized immediately. It was the stance of someone trying to disappear, to avoid attention, to avoid pain. Years of training had taught Bruce to recognize the signs of abuse. The boy's clothes were clearly hand-me-downs, hanging off his small frame. Despite the mild weather, he wore long sleeves that Bruce suspected hid bruises. His movements were careful, deliberate, minimizing any chance of drawing attention. When the family moved toward the exit, Bruce followed at a distance. Outside, they approached an aggressively ordinary sedan. As the adults and larger child piled in, the small boy hesitated. "Uncle Vernon, may I please have some water? I haven't had anything since." The slap came so fast Bruce almost missed it. Not a full-force hit, just enough to make the child flinch back, eyes wide. "Get in the car," Vernon growled. Not another word. Bruce memorized the license plate as they drove away. His evening plans had just changed. 3 hours later, Bruce stood in his hotel suite, staring at his laptop screen. The family was easy enough to trace: Vernon and Petunia Dursley of number 4, Privet Drive, Little Whinging, Surrey. Vernon was a director at Grunnings, a drill manufacturing company. Their son, Dudley, attended a local private school. But the records on the small boy were oddly sparse, barely a mention in school records, no medical visits except emergencies, no photographs in any public records. His name was Harry Potter. Orphaned at age 1 when his parents died in what was officially recorded as a gas explosion. Unofficially, there were inconsistencies in the report that Bruce's trained eye couldn't miss. The Dursleys had become his guardians, but there was no formal adoption process, no social services follow-up visits. It was as if someone had simply placed the child there and everyone had looked the other way. Bruce opened his secure case and removed a slim black unit. Within minutes, he had booked a rental car using one of his alternate identities. By nightfall, he would see exactly what was happening at number 4, Privet Drive. As he prepared to leave, Bruce caught his reflection in the mirror. The fury in his eyes surprised even him. He had seen countless criminals, faced the worst of humanity, but something about that small boy's resignation had struck a chord. Perhaps because 20 years ago, Bruce had been that boy, orphaned, lost, trying to understand a world that had suddenly become cruel. The difference was that Bruce had Alfred. Harry Potter, it seemed, had no one. Privet Drive was exactly what Bruce expected, aggressively normal houses lined up like soldiers, each trying to outdo the others in sheer conformity. Even at twilight, he could see the perfectly manicured lawns, the gleaming cars, the spotless windows. It was the kind of neighborhood where appearances mattered more than anything else. He parked 2 streets away and approached on foot, wearing casual clothes and carrying what appeared to be camera equipment, a cover story as a property surveyor if anyone asked questions. No one did. People in neighborhoods like this minded their own business, especially when someone looked like they belonged. Number 4 was indistinguishable from its neighbors except for the flowers, perfectly arranged but displaying more care than the others. Bruce circled the block twice, noting entry points, blind spots, and the location of each window. By the time darkness fell completely, he had a mental map of the property. From a secluded position across the street, he watched the family's evening routine through high-powered binoculars. Dinner served by Petunia, with Vernon and Dudley eating portions that would feed multiple people. Harry wasn't at the table. Television afterward, with Dudley sprawled across the couch while his parents laughed at his comments. Still no sign of Harry. At 9:30 p.m., Dudley was sent upstairs, followed by Vernon checking the locks on the doors and windows with peculiar thoroughness. Bruce watched him slide a bolt across what appeared to be a cupboard under the stairs, then tap it with satisfaction before heading upstairs. By 11 p.m., the lights were out, and Bruce made his move. The equipment in his backpack wasn't his full Batman suit, that would have been impossible to transport internationally without raising flags, but he had the essentials, a lightweight tactical outfit, night vision, basic tools, and communication devices. Disabling the home's simple security system took seconds. The back door lock was similarly unchallenging. Bruce slipped inside, moving silently through the kitchen. The house was immaculate, obsessively clean, with not a dish out of place. On the refrigerator hung dozens of photos of Dudley in various poses and activities. School portraits, birthday parties, family vacations. Not a single image of Harry. Bruce moved to the living room, noting the expensive electronics, the comfortable furniture, the general air of middle-class prosperity. Everything spoke of a family that lacked for nothing. He checked the ground floor thoroughly before approaching the cupboard under the stairs, the one Vernon had so carefully locked. The bolt slid back silently under Bruce's expert touch. He eased the door open, night vision goggles revealing the contents within. His breath caught. It wasn't a storage space. It was a bedroom, if something so small and sparse could be called that. A thin mattress lay on the floor, with a threadbare blanket folded neatly on top. A few broken toy soldiers stood in formation on a crude shelf. Under the sloping ceiling, someone had drawn a birthday cake with candles in the dust. Written beneath it in a child's uneven handwriting, "Happy Birthday, Harry." Bruce's fists clenched involuntarily. This wasn't neglect, this was deliberate cruelty. He touched the mattress, still warm. Harry had been here recently, perhaps moments before Vernon locked the door. A soft sound from within the cupboard made Bruce freeze. He peered deeper inside and realized with shock that Harry was there, curled into a ball in the furthest corner, green eyes wide open and staring directly at him. "I'm not going to hurt you," Bruce whispered, slowly removing his night vision goggles. The boy didn't scream. Didn't move. Just watched with those unnervingly calm green eyes. "Are you a new dream?" Harry asked softly. "You're a lot nicer looking than my usual ones." The simple question hit Bruce like a physical blow. "I'm not a dream, Harry. My name is Bruce. I saw you today, with your uncle." Harry's eyes narrowed slightly. "How do you know my name?" "I wanted to make sure you were okay," Bruce said, evading the question. "Are you hurt?" Harry seemed to consider this carefully, as if assessing inventory. "Not bad today. Uncle Vernon only grabbed my arm. It's just a little bruise." He said this with such matter-of-factness that Bruce felt sick. "Do they keep you in here all the time?" Harry shook his head. "Only when I'm not doing chores or at school. Or when I've done something freaky." His face suddenly contorted with alarm. "You need to go. If Uncle Vernon finds you here, he won't find me," Bruce assured him. "And he won't hurt you anymore." Harry's laugh was hollow, ancient in his young face. "That's what the lady from school said once. Then Uncle Vernon explained how I'm always lying for attention, and she never came back." "Nobody ever comes back." Bruce extended his hand slowly into the cupboard. "I'm not like the others, Harry. I keep my promises. Will you trust me, just for tonight? I want to see what else is happening in this house." After a moment's hesitation, Harry placed his small hand in Bruce's. His fingers were calloused in ways no 6-year-old should be. "Are you a policeman?" Harry whispered. Bruce helped him out of the cupboard. "No. I'm someone who knows what it's like to be alone." Harry studied him with those unsettling eyes that seemed to see far more than they should. Then he nodded once, decision made. The third stair from the top creaks. "And Aunt Petunia keeps an emergency key in the kitchen behind the flour tin." Bruce smiled despite himself. The boy was observant. "Thank you. Now, can you show me where you keep your things?" Harry gestured to the cupboard. "That's everything." Bruce stared. "You don't have any other clothes? Books? Toys?" "I get Dudley's old clothes when he's done with them." Harry tugged at his oversized shirt. "And I'm not allowed books because I might get ideas. Uncle Vernon says I already have too many of those." Fighting to keep his expression neutral, Bruce knelt to Harry's level. "Would you like to show me the rest of the house?" Very quietly. Harry led him through the ground floor, pointing out his daily chores, cleaning the kitchen, polishing the windows, weeding the garden. He spoke in the practiced whisper of someone accustomed to being silent. "I have to finish everything on Aunt Petunia's list or I don't get dinner," he explained, showing Bruce a lengthy list of tasks posted on the refrigerator. "I'm quite fast now, so I usually get at least some toast." They moved upstairs, Harry carefully avoiding the creaky step he'd warned about. He pointed out Dudley's main bedroom, filled with toys and gadgets, many still in their packaging. "And Dudley's second bedroom," Harry whispered, indicating another room overflowing with broken and discarded items. "For the stuff he doesn't want anymore." "Second bedroom?" Bruce repeated. "While you sleep in a cupboard?" Harry shrugged, as if this was simply how the world worked. "I don't take up much space." By the time they'd completed the tour, Bruce had catalogued dozens of indicators of systematic abuse and neglect. Harry's casual acceptance of his treatment was perhaps the most disturbing element. The boy had no concept that he deserved better. Back downstairs, Bruce helped Harry back into the cupboard, his mind racing with plans. "Harry, I'm going to help you," he said quietly. "But I need a little time to arrange things." Can you stay safe for a few more days? For the first time, Bruce saw a flicker of hope in those green eyes, quickly suppressed. You're really coming back? Yes, Bruce said firmly. And Harry? If anything happens, if your uncle hurts you badly, I want you to run to Mrs. Figg's house. Harry's eyes widened. How do you know about Mrs. Figg? Bruce had seen the elderly woman watching the house from her window while doing his surveillance. Just a guess. She seems like she might help if you needed it. Harry bit his lip. She's all right. Her house smells like cats, but she gives me cake sometimes. Bruce reached into his pocket and pressed something into Harry's hand, a small, innocuous-looking button. If you're in danger, press this. I'll know you need help immediately. Harry stared at the button, then carefully tucked it under his mattress. Will you really come back? I promise. Bruce squeezed his shoulder gently. And I never break my promises. As he slipped out of the house, Bruce was already formulating his approach. The legal system would move too slowly. Social services could be manipulated by someone with Vernon's local standing. No, this required a more direct solution. Bruce Wayne would have to return to Privet Drive in the light of day. Absolutely fascinating property values in this area, Bruce commented, watching Vernon Dursley preen at the implied compliment. Wayne Enterprises is considering a development nearby, and I wanted to get a feel for the neighborhood personally. Bruce had arrived at Dursley's workplace with impeccable timing, just as Vernon was preparing to leave for lunch. Dropping the Wayne Enterprises name had immediate effect. Vernon practically fell over himself inviting Bruce to his home to discuss the neighborhood over tea. Very hands-on, Mr. Wayne, Vernon said obsequiously as they pulled into Privet Drive. Most billionaires would send underlings for this sort of thing. Bruce offered his practiced playboy smile. I find it pays to see things for myself. Especially when it comes to property investments. Vernon's chest puffed further. Well, you've come to the right place. Little whinging is as solid as they come. Good families, property values always rising. As they entered number 4, Bruce scanned for any sign of Harry, but the boy was nowhere in sight. Petunia fluttered nervously around the living room, clearly flustered by the unexpected presence of a billionaire in her meticulously kept home. Tea, Mr. Wayne, she offered, hands fidgeting with her pearl necklace. That would be wonderful, thank you. Bruce settled onto the sofa, casually observing the family photos. Just you and your son living here? Vernon and Petunia exchanged a quick glance. Yes, Vernon said smoothly. Our Dudley. He's at school now, top of his class, very promising boy. The lie came easily to them. Bruce noted how Petunia's eyes flicked briefly toward the cupboard under the stairs before she hurried to the kitchen. Lovely home, Bruce commented. Very well maintained. Petunia has an eye for detail, Vernon said proudly. Not a speck of dust to be found. Bruce steered the conversation toward property values and development potential, watching Vernon grow increasingly animated at the prospect of wealth flowing into the neighborhood. As Petunia served tea, Bruce deliberately spilled a small amount on his sleeve. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, Petunia gasped. Not at all, entirely my fault, Bruce assured her. May I use your bathroom to clean up? Directed upstairs, Bruce quickly investigated the bedrooms, confirming what Harry had shown him the previous night. In Dudley's main room, he planted a small surveillance device behind a shelf of unused books, the perfect location, given the apparent allergy to reading in this household. Returning downstairs, he found Petunia nervously straightening already immaculate cushions while Vernon expounded on the virtues of the neighborhood. The schools are excellent, strict discipline, good traditional values, Vernon was saying. None of that progressive nonsense. A sudden crash from the kitchen interrupted him. Bruce watched the Dursleys' faces transform, Petunia's into alarm, Vernon's into instant rage. Excuse me, Petunia said tightly, hurrying toward the sound. Vernon's face had purpled slightly, but he maintained his smile. Just the cat, I expect. Bruce heard a small voice apologizing frantically, followed by Petunia's harsh whisper. The conversation revealed everything Bruce needed to know about the dynamics in this house. Told you to stay in your cupboard until, sorry, Aunt Petunia, I was just trying to, if Mr. Wayne sees you. Vernon cleared his throat loudly, his joviality clearly strained. Perhaps we should continue this discussion at my office tomorrow. I have some neighborhood statistics that might interest you. A small figure appeared briefly in the kitchen doorway, hairy, wide-eyed and fearful. Petunia shoved him roughly back out of sight, but not before Bruce and Harry locked eyes. Actually, Bruce said, rising, I'd love to see your back garden before I go. I find you can tell a lot about property values from how people maintain their outdoor spaces. The diversion worked. Vernon eagerly led Bruce through the kitchen to show off the immaculately kept garden. As they passed through, Bruce saw Harry hurriedly mopping up what appeared to be spilled juice, his movements frantic. In the garden, Vernon pontificated about lawn care while Bruce nodded politely, waiting for the right moment. It came when Petunia called Vernon back inside to answer a phone call. Excuse me for just a moment, Mr. Wayne. Business never rests. The instant Vernon disappeared inside, Bruce knelt beside Harry, who was now frantically weeding a flower bed, small hands filthy and trembling. It's going to be okay, Bruce whispered. I'm coming back for you tonight. Harry looked up, those green eyes swimming with a mixture of hope and disbelief. Really? Really? Be ready. The back door opened as Vernon returned, and Bruce smoothly rose, admiring a nearby rosebush. Magnificent blooms, Mr. Dursley. Your wife has quite the green thumb. Vernon beamed, crisis averted. She's won the neighborhood garden competition 3 years running. As Bruce prepared to leave, he made his final move. I'd like to send a photographer tomorrow, if you don't mind. Properties with well-kept gardens like yours photographed beautifully for our brochures. Of course, of course. Vernon practically glowed at the prospect. What time should we expect them? Around 10 in the morning would be perfect. I want the light just right. Bruce shook Vernon's hand firmly. Thank you for your hospitality. I have a very good feeling about this neighborhood. As Bruce drove away, he contacted his London legal team through his car's secure line. I need everything you can get me on UK adoption and guardianship laws, particularly in cases of documented abuse. And contact Dr. Leslie Tompkins, I need her on a plane to London tonight. His next call was to Alfred. How's the weather in London, sir? Alfred's voice was as proper as ever, but Bruce could hear the underlying concern. Changing, Alfred. I need you to prepare the East Wing guest room. The one nearest mine. There was a brief pause. May I ask for whom, Master Bruce? Bruce watched the houses of Privet Drive disappear in his rearview mirror. A boy, Alfred. 6 years old. He needs a home. I see. Another pause. And the child's parents? Dead. He's been living with abusive relatives. I'm going to change that. I assume you've thought through the legal ramifications of what you're suggesting. Bruce's grip tightened on the steering wheel. I'm working on it. But I won't leave him there another night, legal or not. Very well, sir. Alfred's tone softened slightly. I shall ensure the room is appropriate for a young boy. Might I have a name for our expected guest? Bruce thought of those green eyes, so full of quiet resignation and yet still holding a spark of something unbroken. Harry. His name is Harry Potter. That night, Bruce didn't bother with subtlety. He parked 2 blocks away at precisely 2 a.m., wearing dark clothing but not his tactical gear. This operation needed to be legally defensible, a concerned citizen intervening in an abusive situation, not Batman conducting a raid. The tracking device he'd planted earlier confirmed all 3 Dursleys were upstairs, presumably sleeping. The surveillance had picked up concerning audio after his departure, Vernon berating Harry, the sound of a slap, Petunia shrilly ordering him into his cupboard without dinner. Bruce approached the house directly this time. The lock yielded easily to his tools, and he moved swiftly to the cupboard under the stairs. Harry was awake, sitting on his mattress with a small bundle wrapped in what appeared to be an old pillowcase. His eyes widened when he saw Bruce. "You really came back," he whispered, wonder in his voice. "I promised I would," Bruce said, kneeling to look him in the eye. "Are you ready to leave?" Harry nodded, clutching his small bundle. "This is everything I want to keep." The sparse contents broke Bruce's heart: a broken toy soldier, a chipped marble, a drawing of what might have been a family, and a baby blanket with the letter H embroidered in the corner. "Is there anything else you need?" Bruce asked. Harry shook his head. "Just these. They're the only things that are really mine." Bruce helped him up. "We need to be very quiet. My car is not far, and then we'll go somewhere safe." As they moved toward the door, a floorboard creaked overhead. Harry froze, his small body tensing in preparation for punishment. Bruce placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder and guided him outside, closing the door silently behind them. They were halfway down the street when lights blazed to life in number 4. Vernon's bellow echoed in the quiet neighborhood, "Boy! Where are you, boy?" "Run," Bruce said, lifting Harry into his arms and sprinting toward the car. Harry clung to him, face buried in Bruce's shoulder. His tiny body was trembling, but he didn't make a sound. They reached the car just as front doors began opening along Privet Drive. Bruce placed Harry in the passenger seat and quickly secured him with the seatbelt. As he slid into the driver's side, he could see Vernon's massive figure charging down the street in pajamas, face purple with rage. "Is he going to catch us?" Harry asked, his voice small but remarkably composed. Bruce started the engine. "No, Harry. No one is ever going to hurt you again. That's a promise." As they drove away, Bruce glanced in the rearview mirror. Vernon had stopped in the middle of the street, shaking his fist and shouting. Several neighbors had emerged, staring at the spectacle in their bathrobes. Beside him, Harry looked back once, then faced forward. Bruce saw no tears, no emotion at all, just the same quiet resignation he'd noticed from the beginning. That would change, Bruce promised himself. Harry would learn that not all homes were prisons, not all adults were monsters. "Where are we going?" Harry asked after several minutes of silence. "First, to see a doctor friend of mine," Bruce explained. "She needs to check you over, make sure you're healthy. Then we'll stay at my hotel until we can go home." Home. The word seemed foreign in Harry's mouth. "To Gotham City. It's in America." Bruce glanced at him. "Would you like that? To come live with me?" Harry's brow furrowed in confusion. "Why would you want me?" The simple question cut deeper than Bruce expected. He chose his words carefully. "Because no child should be treated the way your aunt and uncle treated you. Because you deserve a real home, with people who care about you." "But why you?" Harry persisted. "You're important. Rich. You could have anyone." Bruce thought about how to explain his motivations to a 6-year-old. The truth seemed best. "When I was about your age, I lost my parents. They were killed right in front of me." Harry's eyes widened. "Like mine." Bruce nodded, surprised. "You know about your parents?" "Only that they died in a car crash when I was a baby." Harry touched the lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. "That's how I got this. Aunt Petunia says I should have died with them." Bruce's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Your aunt is wrong. About many things, it seems." They drove in silence for a few minutes before Harry spoke again. "Were you scared? After your parents died?" "Terrified," Bruce admitted. "But I was lucky. I had someone who took care of me, Alfred. He's still with me. You'll meet him soon." "Is he nice?" Bruce smiled. The best man I've ever known. He'll probably spoil you terribly. Harry seemed to digest this information carefully. Will the police make me go back? Uncle Vernon knows important people. No, Bruce said firmly. I know more important people. And I have evidence of how they treated you, enough to make sure you never have to see them again. The car pulled up to a private clinic where Leslie Tompkins was waiting, having arrived on an emergency flight from Gotham. As Bruce helped Harry from the car, the boy suddenly took his hand, squeezing it with surprising strength. Thank you, Harry said simply. For coming back. Bruce felt something shift inside him, a protective instinct so powerful it nearly took his breath away. Always, Harry. I'll always come back for you. Leslie's examination confirmed Bruce's worst fears. Harry was malnourished, with evidence of multiple healed fractures and contusions in various stages of healing. The medical documentation would be crucial for the legal battle ahead. Physically, he'll recover, Leslie told Bruce privately while Harry dozed on an examination table, exhausted from the night's events. With proper nutrition and care, he should catch up to his peers. But the psychological damage. She shook her head. That will take longer. He'll have whatever he needs, Bruce assured her. I've already begun the process to become his legal guardian. Leslie raised an eyebrow. Bruce, are you sure about this? Your lifestyle isn't exactly, I know what it's like to lose everything, Leslie. To feel powerless. Bruce looked at the sleeping child. I can give him stability, resources, protection. And maybe he can give me perspective? Leslie suggested gently. Bruce nodded. Something like that. Back at the hotel suite, Bruce settled Harry into the bedroom. The boy seemed overwhelmed by the space, the comfortable bed, the room service breakfast Bruce had ordered. All of this is for me? Harry asked, eyeing the pancakes suspiciously. All of it, Bruce confirmed. Eat as much as you want. Harry took one small pancake, then looked at Bruce questioningly. When Bruce nodded encouragement, Harry took another, then stopped. What do I have to do for this? Do? To earn it. What chores do I need to do first? Bruce sat on the edge of the bed. Harry, in a proper home, children don't earn basic necessities. Food, clothing, shelter, those are things you get because you need them, not because you've earned them. Harry looked skeptical. But Uncle Vernon always said, your uncle was wrong. Bruce kept his voice gentle but firm. What he did to you was wrong. It was against the law, and it was cruel. Harry considered this, pushing his pancake around with his fork. So. I just get food. Even if I don't do anything. You get food because you need food to grow and be healthy. Your job is to be a kid, to learn, to play, to figure out who you are. This concept seemed to confuse Harry more than anything else Bruce had told him. After a moment, he asked, what if I'm bad? Do I have to go in a cupboard then? Bruce felt that now familiar surge of anger, carefully controlled. No. Never again. If you make a mistake or break a rule, we'll talk about it. Maybe you'll lose a privilege or have a timeout. But you will always have food, a proper bedroom, and people who care about you. Harry nodded slowly, not entirely convinced but willing to accept this new reality provisionally. He took a careful bite of pancake, then his eyes widened at the taste. Bruce watched with a mixture of sadness and satisfaction as the boy began to eat with increasing enthusiasm. While Harry showered, another novel experience that required explanation, Bruce took a call from his legal team. The situation is complicated, Mr. Wayne, his solicitor explained. Given the evidence of abuse, we have grounds for emergency intervention. But cross-international adoption is complex, especially when you're seeking to remove the child not only from his home but from the country. What do we need to do? We've filed for an emergency hearing this afternoon. With the medical evidence and photographs, we should be able to get temporary custody granted. But someone with connections to child services in Surrey is already asking questions about the boy's removal. It's unusual, they seem particularly invested in this case. Bruce frowned. Keep pushing. I want all the paperwork ready for transport to the United States as soon as possible. There's one other thing, sir. The boy's parents, their death records are strangely incomplete. Almost as if a soft knock at the door interrupted the call. Bruce opened it to find an elderly man with a long silver beard, wearing what appeared to be a purple velvet suit. His blue eyes twinkled behind half-moon spectacles, but there was nothing comforting about the power Bruce sensed radiating from him. "Good morning, Mr. Wayne," the man said pleasantly. "I believe you have something that doesn't belong to you. May I come in? We have much to discuss about young Harry Potter." Bruce didn't invite the old man in immediately. Instead, he stepped into the hallway, pulling the door nearly closed behind him. "Who are you?" "Albus Dumbledore." The name was offered as if it should mean something. "Headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry." Bruce's expression didn't change, though his mind rapidly evaluated possibilities: mental illness, elaborate con, or something more concerning. "I understand your skepticism," Dumbledore continued calmly. "But I assure you, Mr. Wayne, the world is more complex than even Batman might imagine." The casual mention of his secret identity hit Bruce like a physical blow, but he kept his face impassive. "I don't know what you're talking about." Dumbledore smiled gently. "I believe in directness when time is of the essence. You have removed Harry from his family's protection that keeps him safe from those who would do him tremendous harm." Safe? Bruce couldn't contain his bitterness. That child was being systematically abused and neglected. "I am aware the Dursleys were less than ideal guardians." Genuine regret flickered across Dumbledore's face. "However, there are magical protections at their home that keep Harry safe from threats you cannot comprehend." "Magic?" Bruce's tone was flat. "You expect me to believe in magic?" Dumbledore reached into his sleeve and produced what appeared to be a polished wooden stick. Before Bruce could react, the elderly man waved it subtly. The hallway light above them transformed into a cluster of butterflies that fluttered briefly before reverting to a functioning light fixture. Bruce's mind raced through explanations, hallucinations, advanced technology, hypnosis, but each theory seemed inadequate against what he'd just witnessed. "May we continue this conversation inside?" Dumbledore suggested. "Young Harry should be part of this discussion. After all, his future is what concerns us both." After a moment's hesitation, Bruce opened the door. Harry stood in the center of the room, hair still damp from the shower, wearing a hotel bathrobe that engulfed his small frame. His eyes widened at the sight of Dumbledore. "You're like me," Harry said quietly, surprising both men. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. "Indeed, Harry. How did you know?" "Sometimes things happen around me. Things Uncle Vernon called freakish." Harry looked at Bruce, fear evident in his expression. "Once, my hair grew back overnight after Aunt Petunia cut it all off. Another time, I ended up on the school roof when Dudley was chasing me. I didn't mean to do it." Bruce moved to Harry's side, placing a protective hand on his shoulder. "Harry, nothing about you is freakish. Mr. Wayne is correct," Dumbledore said gently. "What you experienced was accidental magic. You are a wizard, Harry, as were your parents before you." Harry stared at Dumbledore, hope and disbelief warring in his expression. "My parents were, like me. Lily and James Potter were two of the finest magical people I've ever known." Dumbledore's voice softened with genuine affection. "And you are very much their son." Bruce watched Harry's face transform with this new information, something the Dursleys had clearly never shared. The boy's hunger for knowledge about his parents was palpable. "Please, sit down, Mr. Wayne." Dumbledore gestured to the sofa. "What I must tell you both will take some time, and much of it will be difficult to hear." Over the next hour, Dumbledore explained a world that existed parallel to the one Bruce knew, a society of witches and wizards with their own government, schools, and culture. He spoke of a war that had raged within that world, led by a dark wizard called Voldemort, who had targeted Harry's parents specifically. They did not die in a car crash, Dumbledore said gently to Harry. They were murdered, protecting you. And when Voldemort tried to kill you as well, something extraordinary happened. The curse rebounded, destroying his physical form and leaving only that scar on your forehead. Harry's hand moved unconsciously to the lightning-shaped mark. In the wizarding world, Harry is known as the boy who lived, Dumbledore continued. The only person ever to survive the killing curse. He became famous that night, a symbol of hope. And you sent this famous child to live in a cupboard, Bruce said coldly. Dumbledore sighed heavily. I placed Harry with his only blood relatives for a specific reason. When Lily Potter died protecting her son, she invoked an ancient magic, a protection that lives in Harry's blood, and by extension, in her sister Petunia's blood. As long as Harry can call home the place where his mother's blood dwells, he cannot be touched or harmed by Voldemort. Voldemort is dead, Bruce pointed out. His body was destroyed, but I fear he is not truly gone. Dumbledore's eyes grew distant. There are ways, dark magic, through which he might return. And when he does, his first target will be Harry. Harry had remained silent throughout this explanation, his expression thoughtful beyond his years. Now he looked up at Bruce. Does this mean I have to go back? The resignation in his voice made Bruce's decision immediate and irrevocable. No. Never. Dumbledore leaned forward. Mr. Wayne, I understand your protective instinct. But without the blood protection, then we'll find another way to protect him, Bruce interrupted. I've dedicated my life to protecting the innocent. I have resources, technology, training. And now, with your information, I can prepare specifically for magical threats. You are a remarkable man, Mr. Wayne. Dumbledore studied him thoughtfully. Few muggles, non-magical people, would accept the existence of our world so readily. I've seen too much to dismiss anything outright, Bruce replied. But understanding doesn't change my position. Harry deserves a real home, not a prison justified by prophecy or magical theory. Dumbledore seemed to reach a decision. Perhaps there is a compromise. The blood protection requires Harry to call home the place where his mother's blood dwells, but it doesn't require him to be mistreated. I could strengthen the wards around the Dursley home, compel them to treat Harry properly, no. Harry's voice was small but firm. Both men turned to him in surprise. Please don't make me go back. The simple plea carried more weight than all the previous arguments. Dumbledore looked at the child for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Very well. But we must consider alternatives for your safety, Harry. Could the protection be transferred? Bruce asked. A blood transfusion from Petunia, perhaps. Dumbledore shook his head. Magic doesn't work quite that literally. However. He paused, thinking. There might be a way to extend a modified version of the protection to another dwelling. It would require Petunia's cooperation, freely given, and several powerful enchantments. It wouldn't be as strong as the original protection, but combined with whatever security measures you undoubtedly have, Mr. Wayne. He trailed off, considering the possibilities. I'll convince Petunia to cooperate, Bruce said grimly. One way or another. I suspect you will. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled briefly before growing serious again. There is another matter we must address. The wizarding world believes Harry is safely hidden away. His sudden appearance in the Muggle, non-magical, world, especially with someone as prominent as Bruce Wayne, would attract attention we cannot afford. You want to keep the adoption quiet. I believe it would be safer for all concerned, at least until Harry is old enough to attend Hogwarts and has learned to control his magic. Bruce considered this. I can handle the media. Wayne Enterprises has enough influence to ensure privacy when needed. The question is whether you can handle your side, keeping the magical world from interfering. As Chief Warlock of the Wizengamot, our High Court, I have some authority in these matters, Dumbledore replied. With your permission, I would like to establish a magical guardian for Harry as well, to satisfy wizarding law. And who would that be? Bruce asked suspiciously. Myself, for now. When Harry turns 11 and begins his magical education, we can revisit the arrangement. Bruce looked at Harry, who had been following the conversation with remarkable focus for a 6-year-old. What do you think, Harry? Would you be okay with Mr. Dumbledore helping look after the magical side of things? Harry hesitated, then asked Dumbledore, would you make me go back if Mr. Wayne wasn't being nice to me? The direct question seemed to surprise the old wizard. Do you believe Mr. Wayne might not be kind to you? Harry shook his head quickly. No. He's been brilliant. But adults sometimes change their minds about me. I promise you, Harry, if Mr. Wayne ever mistreats you, I will personally intervene. Dumbledore's voice carried absolute conviction. However, I suspect that day will never come. Harry considered this, then nodded. Okay. Then we have an agreement, Bruce said, extending his hand to Dumbledore. I'll handle Harry's day-to-day care and non-magical education. You'll oversee his magical needs and security from wizarding threats. Joint custody, in effect. Dumbledore shook Bruce's hand, a spark of something like admiration in his eyes. Indeed. Though I must warn you, raising a magical child, particularly one as significant as Harry, will present unique challenges. Bruce looked at Harry, who was watching them both with cautious hope. I'm no stranger to challenges. The following week was a whirlwind of activity. Bruce, with Dumbledore's magical assistance, confronted the Dursleys one final time. Faced with both legal consequences and Dumbledore's imposing magical presence, Petunia reluctantly provided what was needed for the blood protection ritual, a freely given, if bitterly offered, declaration renouncing her guardianship and transferring her protection to Wayne Manor. The legal adoption proceeded with surprising smoothness, thanks to both Wayne Enterprises' influence and Dumbledore's subtle magical intervention. Harry Potter officially became Harry Potter Wayne, with dual British-American citizenship and paperwork that would satisfy both magical and non-magical authorities. Before departing for Gotham, Bruce took Harry shopping, a bewildering experience for a child who had never owned new clothes or toys. You can choose whatever you like, Bruce told him as they entered an upscale children's department store. Harry stood frozen among the displays, overwhelmed by options. I don't know what to pick. Bruce knelt to his level. That's okay. We can start small. What's your favorite color? Harry thought for a moment. Green, I think. Like my eyes. Like. He hesitated. Like your mother's eyes, Bruce supplied gently. Dumbledore had shown them magical photographs of Lily and James Potter, moving images that had left Harry speechless with wonder and Bruce unsettled but determined to adapt to this new reality. Harry nodded. And red, like my dad's Quidditch robes. Then let's start there. Green and red clothes. By the end of the shopping trip, Harry had a complete wardrobe, books, and a few carefully selected toys. He remained hesitant about asking for anything, but Bruce was patient, encouraging him to express preferences. Their final night in London, Bruce found Harry sitting on the hotel room floor, surrounded by his new possessions, methodically organizing them. Everything okay? Bruce asked. Harry looked up, his expression serious. I'm making sure I can pack it all properly. So I don't leave anything behind. Bruce sat beside him. You know, if you ever forget something, we can always replace it. That's not something you need to worry about anymore. Harry's hand stilled on the small model airplane he'd been examining. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up back in my cupboard, and all this will have been a dream. Bruce gently placed his hand over Harry's. This is real, Harry. I promise you. Harry met his gaze, those green eyes searching for truth. Why did you really take me? There must be lots of kids like me. The question deserved an honest answer. Bruce chose his words carefully. When I saw you with your uncle, something inside me recognized what you were going through. I lost my parents when I was just a little older than you are now. I was lucky, I had Alfred to take care of me. But I remember what it felt like to be alone, to be afraid. So it's because you feel sorry for me? No. Bruce shook his head firmly. It's because I see something in you, Harry, a strength that reminds me of myself. You survived the Dursleys without letting them break your spirit. That's remarkable. Harry considered this. Mr. Dumbledore says I survived because my mum loved me very much. That her love protected me. I believe that, Bruce said. Love is a powerful force, even in the non-magical world. Harry picked up the model airplane again, turning it over in his hands. I don't really remember my parents. Just green lights sometimes, in nightmares. We'll make sure you know them, Bruce promised. Through stories, through pictures. And we'll make new memories too, you, me, and Alfred. Harry nodded, then asked hesitantly, what should I call you? Bruce hadn't considered this question. What would you like to call me? Not Uncle, Harry said quickly, then looked worried. Is that okay? More than okay, Bruce assured him. You can call me Bruce for now. Anything else, we'll figure it out as we go. Harry seemed satisfied with this answer. He carefully placed the airplane with his other new possessions, then looked up at Bruce with sudden determination. Mr. Dumbledore said my parents were brave. That they fought against a really bad wizard even though they knew they might die. His small jaw set in a way that reminded Bruce painfully of himself. I want to be brave like them. Bruce felt something shift in his chest, a mixture of pride and fear. Being brave doesn't mean not being afraid, Harry. It means doing what's right even when you are afraid. Is that why you're Batman? To do what's right even though it's scary? Bruce stilled. How did you know about that? Harry shrugged. I heard Mr. Dumbledore say it. And it makes sense. You have all those skills, and you're really good at sneaking, and you're not afraid of the dark. He looked down. Sorry. Was it supposed to be a secret? Despite himself, Bruce laughed. Yes, it's a very important secret. One you'll have to help me keep. Harry's eyes widened. I can keep secrets. I'm good at that. I know you are, Bruce said, ruffling his hair gently. And you're right. I became Batman to protect people who can't protect themselves. To try and make sure what happened to me doesn't happen to anyone else. Harry nodded thoughtfully. Can I help sometimes? When I'm bigger? The question sent a chill through Bruce. He had already privately struggled with the implications of bringing a child into his dangerous world. But looking at Harry now, this remarkable child who had already survived so much, he recognized a familiar determination. We'll see, Bruce said carefully. For now, your job is to heal, to learn, and to be a kid. But someday, when you're older, if that's still what you want, we'll talk about it. Harry seemed satisfied with this answer. He yawned suddenly, the day's excitement catching up with him. Time for bed, Bruce said. We have a long flight tomorrow. As he tucked Harry into bed, the boy asked one more question, his voice already heavy with approaching sleep. Do you think I'll like Gotham? Bruce thought about his complex, troubled city, its darkness, its dangers, but also its resilience, its hidden beauty. It's not always an easy place, he answered honestly. But it's home. And now it will be yours too. Harry smiled sleepily. I've never had a real home before. As Harry drifted off to sleep, Bruce stood watching him, struck by the enormity of what he had undertaken. He was responsible now for this child, not just for his physical safety, but for his emotional well-being, his education, his future. It was perhaps the most daunting challenge Bruce had ever faced. Yet looking at Harry's peaceful sleeping face, Bruce felt something he hadn't experienced in years, a sense of rightness, of purpose beyond the mission that had driven him since that night in Crime Alley. Batman protected Gotham. Now Bruce Wayne would protect Harry Potter. And perhaps, in some unexpected way, this remarkable boy would help heal the broken parts of Bruce as well. Alfred Pennyworth had prepared for many contingencies in his years serving the Wayne family. He had bandaged wounds, fabricated alibis, and maintained the facade of normalcy while his employer waged a one-man war against crime. But nothing had quite prepared him for the sight of Bruce Wayne descending from the private jet with a small, black-haired child clutching his hand. "Welcome home, Master Bruce," Alfred said formally, then bent slightly to address the boy. "And you must be Master Harry. It's a pleasure to meet you at last." Harry stared up at the tall, dignified man, clearly intimidated but determined to be polite. "Hello, Mr. Alfred. Thank you for having me." "Just Alfred will do nicely," he replied with a gentle smile. "And Wayne Manor is your home now. You are not a guest." Bruce watched the interaction with something like nervousness, an emotion Alfred had rarely seen in him since childhood. "Harry, Alfred has been with me since I was born. He's family." Harry nodded solemnly, still holding tightly to Bruce's hand. As they drove toward the manor, Alfred observed the boy in the rearview mirror. Harry sat perfectly still, watching the passing Gotham scenery with wide, alert eyes. Not the typical behavior of a 6-year-old after a transatlantic flight. "Your room is all prepared," Alfred mentioned. "I took the liberty of stocking the bookshelves with some titles appropriate for your age, but we can certainly add more to your liking." "I have my own bookshelves?" Harry asked, surprise evident in his voice. "Indeed. An entire room full of them, in fact." Alfred glanced at Bruce, who had briefed him on Harry's previous living conditions. "The East Wing bedroom has excellent morning light for reading." As they approached Wayne Manor, Harry gasped softly. The massive Gothic structure loomed against the darkening sky, imposing yet somehow welcoming with its lit windows. "It's like a castle," Harry whispered. "Not quite as drafty, I should hope," Alfred replied. "Though just as easy to get lost in until you learn your way around." Inside, Harry stood in the grand foyer, neck craned back to stare at the vaulted ceiling. Bruce placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Would you like to see your room?" Harry nodded, still overwhelmed by his surroundings. The East Wing bedroom was directly across from Bruce's own, a deliberate choice to ensure Harry would feel secure. Alfred had transformed what had been a rather austere guest room into a space appropriate for a child, with warm colors, comfortable furniture, and indeed, plenty of books. "This is all for me?" Harry asked, moving hesitantly into the room. "All yours," Bruce confirmed. "You can decorate it however you like." Harry approached the bed, a substantial four-poster that made his small frame appear even tinier, and placed his hand on the blue comforter as if checking that it was real. "I've never slept in a proper bed before," he admitted. "Just the mattress in the cupboard." Alfred and Bruce exchanged a look over Harry's head, Alfred's normally impassive face briefly showing anger. "Well, Master Harry," Alfred said, keeping his voice light, "I believe you'll find this one quite comfortable. And should you need anything during the night, Master Bruce's room is just across the hall, and my quarters are at the end of the corridor." Harry nodded, then asked suddenly, "Are there any cupboards under stairs here?" "Several," Alfred answered honestly. "But they are used for storage only, I assure you." Harry seemed relieved at this. He walked to the window, which offered a view of the extensive grounds behind the manor. "Is all that yours too?" "Ours now," Bruce corrected gently. Harry turned, a question clearly weighing on him. "What about the other parts of your house? The secret parts? Where you keep your Batman things?" Alfred's eyebrows rose sharply, but Bruce had warned him about Harry's knowledge. "I'll show you tomorrow," Bruce promised. "For now, why don't we get you settled in? You must be tired after the long flight." After a light dinner, during which Harry ate with the careful precision of someone unaccustomed to regular meals. Bruce helped him unpack his new belongings. The process seemed to both excite and distress Harry, joy at having possessions mixed with anxiety about claiming space. "Everything in here belongs to you," Bruce reminded him. "You don't have to hide anything. No one will take anything away." Harry carefully arranged his clothes in the wardrobe, placed his books on the lowest shelf, and positioned his few toys on a desk by the window. His original bundle of possessions from Privet Drive, the broken soldier, the marble, the drawing, and the baby blanket, he placed carefully in the drawer of the bedside table. "My special things," he explained when he caught Bruce watching. "From before." Bruce nodded, understanding the significance of these humble treasures. Bath time provided another insight into Harry's previous life. He initially attempted to wash himself with cold water, explaining that he wasn't allowed to use the hot water at the Dursleys. Bruce gently corrected this misapprehension, showing him how to adjust the temperature to his liking. When Harry was finally tucked into bed, clean and dressed in new pajamas, Bruce sat on the edge of the mattress. "How are you feeling?" he asked. Harry considered the question seriously. "It's strange. Like I'm in a dream." He glanced around the room, which despite Alfred's efforts still retained an adult aesthetic. "I like it, but it doesn't feel real yet." "That's understandable," Bruce said. "Everything's changed very quickly for you. It might take some time to feel settled." Harry nodded, then asked hesitantly, "Will you tell me about the magic part again? About my mum and dad?" Bruce had been expecting this. He recounted what Dumbledore had explained about the wizarding world, about Harry's parents, and about the events that had left him an orphan. "So this bad wizard, Voldemort, he wanted to kill me? Just because of some prophecy?" "It seems so," Bruce acknowledged. "But Dumbledore believes that your mother's sacrifice protected you. That's why he couldn't harm you, why the curse rebounded on him instead." Harry's hand moved to his scar. "And he might come back someday? To try again?" Bruce had debated how much to share with Harry, but had decided on honesty, carefully measured to his age. "Dumbledore thinks it's possible. But that's why we're taking precautions, why he helped us establish magical protections here at the manor." Harry was quiet for a moment, then said, "I'm not scared. Not if you're here." The simple declaration of trust humbled Bruce. "I'll always be here, Harry. And we'll face whatever comes together." Harry smiled, then yawned widely. Bruce rose to leave, but Harry's voice stopped him. "Bruce? Could you leave the door open a little? And maybe a light on in the hall?" "Of course." Bruce adjusted the door and ensured the hallway light was on. "Good night, Harry." "Good night," Harry mumbled, already drifting towards sleep. Bruce found Alfred waiting in the hallway, a tray with tea and brandy in his hands. "I thought you might need this, sir," Alfred said, leading the way to Bruce's study. "The first night is always the hardest." Once settled with drinks, Alfred asked the question that had clearly been on his mind. "Magic, sir? Are you quite certain?" Bruce sighed. "I've seen it, Alfred. Things that defy all rational explanation. Dumbledore showed me memories, actual memories that I could walk through and observe, of Harry's parents, of the night they died. And you believe this dark wizard may return to threaten the boy? Dumbledore is convinced of it. And after what I've seen..." Bruce shook his head. "We need to be prepared." Alfred studied him for a moment. "If I may, sir, how does this affect your other activities? Batman's crusade is hardly compatible with raising a child." It was a question Bruce had been wrestling with since making the decision to adopt Harry. "I don't know yet. For now, I'll scale back, focus on investigations rather than direct confrontations when possible. You'll need to be with Harry when I'm out." "Of course." Alfred hesitated, then added, "He seems a remarkably resilient child, given what he's endured." "He is," Bruce agreed. "But there's damage there, Alfred. Profound damage. The Dursleys. His fist clenched involuntarily. They made him believe he was worthless, that he didn't deserve even basic kindness. Such beliefs can be unlearned, with time and patience, Alfred said gently. As you well know, sir. Bruce nodded, remembering his own trauma after his parents' murder, how Alfred had steadied him, given him structure and support while allowing him space to grieve. There's something else, Bruce admitted. Something I haven't fully processed yet. This wizarding world, it exists alongside ours, hidden but pervasive. There are threats out there beyond what I've been trained to fight. I need to learn, to adapt. As you always do, sir. Alfred's confidence was unwavering. And the boy? Will he follow in your footsteps? The question struck at Bruce's core concerns. I don't know. Part of me wants to keep him as far from Batman as possible. But another part recognizes that he has his own destiny, his own battles to fight. The best I can do is prepare him, not just for the wizard who might return, but for life. A wise approach, Alfred agreed. And may I say, Master Bruce, that I believe you've made the right decision. That child needs precisely what you can provide, understanding of loss, protection, and purpose. Bruce sipped his brandy, letting the burn anchor him in the moment. I hope you're right, Alfred. Because I have the distinct feeling our lives have just become infinitely more complicated. Indeed, sir. Alfred's eyes twinkled slightly. Magic tends to have that effect, I imagine. Later that night, Bruce checked on Harry before heading to the cave. The boy was sound asleep, one hand clutching his baby blanket, face peaceful in a way it hadn't been while awake. Looking at him, Bruce felt the weight of his new responsibility, a weight different from, but no less significant than, the mantle of Batman. He had sworn to protect Gotham from the shadows that had claimed his parents. Now he would protect Harry from the darkness that had taken his. And perhaps, in time, they would heal each other. Chapter 2, Two Worlds, Again. Harry dropped into a fighting stance, facing the training dummy with focused intensity. 5 years had transformed the timid, malnourished 6-year-old into a lean, athletic 11-year-old with quick reflexes and calculating eyes. Remember your center, Bruce said from the edge of the training mat. Power comes from the core, not the limbs, Harry finished, delivering a precise combination of strikes. The dummy swiveled unexpectedly, its mechanical arm swinging toward his head. Harry ducked, rolled, and came up behind it, striking the vulnerability point Bruce had shown him. Bruce nodded approvingly. Better. You anticipated the counter. The Batcave hummed with technology around them, computer systems monitoring Gotham, equipment in various stages of development, vehicles designed for urban warfare. After 5 years, Harry navigated the space with the ease of someone born to it. Can we try the obstacle course now? Harry asked, pushing his damp hair from his forehead. The lightning scar was barely visible now, a thin white line rather than the angry red mark it had been when Bruce first brought him home. One more combat sequence, Bruce replied, stepping onto the mat. This time against me. Harry grinned. Sparring with Bruce was his favorite part of training. Though Bruce never used his full strength or speed, he didn't coddle Harry either. Each session pushed Harry's limits, teaching him to think creatively against a superior opponent. They circled each other, Harry's green eyes, so like his mother's, calculating distances and angles. Bruce threw a deliberately telegraphed punch. Instead of dodging as expected, Harry stepped into it, using Bruce's momentum to slip past his guard and tap his ribs. Point, Harry said triumphantly. Bruce raised an eyebrow. Risky move. Calculated risk, Harry countered. You expected evasion, so I used your expectation against you. And if I had adjusted mid-strike? Harry grinned. Then I'd be on the floor, and I'd have learned something. Bruce's rare smile flashed briefly. In 5 years, Harry had absorbed not just fighting techniques, but the philosophy behind them, understanding opponents, using environment and psychology as weapons, turning disadvantages into advantages. The exchange continued, Bruce gradually increasing speed and complexity, Harry adapting with each engagement. Unlike many children his age who might grow frustrated at losing repeatedly, Harry treated each failure as data, something to analyze and learn from. The training session ended with Harry executing a perfect feint that almost, caught Bruce off guard. "Your technique is improving," Bruce acknowledged, tossing Harry a towel. "But remember, physical skills are just tools," Harry recited. "The real weapon is up here." He tapped his temple. A soft chime from the main computer interrupted them. Alfred's voice came through the intercom system. "Master Bruce, Master Harry, I believe something rather unusual has arrived in this morning's post. Perhaps you'd both care to come upstairs." Harry and Bruce exchanged a look. At 11, Harry knew enough about Bruce's work, both as Wayne Enterprises CEO and as Batman, to recognize that unusual in Alfred's carefully neutral tone could mean anything from corporate espionage to Joker threats. "We'll be right up, Alfred," Bruce replied. In the years since Harry's arrival, certain modifications had been made to Wayne Manor. The primary entrance to the Batcave remained hidden behind the grandfather clock in Bruce's study, but a secondary access had been installed in Harry's bedroom closet, a precaution Bruce insisted upon so Harry could reach the cave's security if ever necessary. They took the main elevator up, Harry still toweling his face. "Do you think it's from Dumbledore?" he asked. The elderly wizard visited periodically to check the magical protections around the manor and monitor Harry's occasional bursts of accidental magic. "Possibly," Bruce said. "His timing would be right." In the 5 years since leaving Privet Drive, Harry had grown into a curious blend of both worlds. Bruce had ensured his education was exceptional, the best private tutors for academic subjects, supplemented by Bruce's own lessons in investigation, deduction, and strategy. Alfred had contributed cultural refinement, practical skills, and a dry wit that Harry had gleefully adopted. Magic remained the wild card. Despite Dumbledore's occasional guidance, Harry's magical education had been limited to theory and controlling his accidental outbursts. Bruce had insisted on understanding magical principles from a logical perspective, accumulating a small library of basic magical texts that both he and Harry studied systematically. They found Alfred in the kitchen, regarding a thick envelope of yellowish parchment with practiced nonchalance. The green ink address was unmistakable, Mr. H. Potter Wayne, the East Wing Bedroom, Wayne Manor, Gotham City, United States of America. "It appears your Hogwarts letter has arrived," Alfred observed, handing the envelope to Harry. "Rather impressive that their postal system can locate you across the Atlantic." Harry turned the heavy envelope over, noting the purple wax seal bearing a coat of arms with 4 animals surrounding an elaborate H. His hands trembled slightly as he broke the seal and extracted several sheets of parchment. Bruce watched Harry's face as he read, the wonder, excitement, and apprehension cycling through his expression. Though they had known this day would come, the reality of it landed differently. Harry was being invited into a world that Bruce, for all his resources and training, could not fully access or understand. "I've been accepted," Harry said, looking up with a mixture of emotions too complex to name. "They want me to come to Hogwarts in September." Bruce nodded, keeping his expression neutral despite his conflicting feelings. "As we expected." Harry passed him the letter, watching Bruce's reaction carefully. "What do you think?" This had been the subject of many discussions over the years. Dumbledore had explained the importance of Harry receiving proper magical training, while Bruce had reservations about sending Harry thousands of miles away to a boarding school, particularly one where he couldn't easily reach the boy if needed. "I think," Bruce said deliberately, "that this is a decision we need to make together. This is your heritage, Harry. An important part of who you are." Alfred set a plate of breakfast in front of Harry. "Perhaps you should eat while discussing matters of international magical education. Growing crime fighters require proper nutrition." Harry smiled at Alfred's characteristic blend of practicality and subtle humor. Over the years, Alfred had become a grandfather figure, tempering Bruce's intensity with warmth and providing stability when Bruce's nighttime activities kept him away. There's a list of supplies, Harry noted, scanning the second page. Books, robes, a wand, his eyes lit up at that last item. And we're allowed to bring an owl, cat, or toad as a pet. I draw the line at toads in the manor, Alfred remarked dryly. As Harry ate, Bruce read through the materials with the methodical attention he applied to all new information. We'll need to contact Dumbledore. There are logistical issues to address if you choose to attend. If? Harry looked up, surprised. I thought we decided I would go. We discussed possibilities, Bruce corrected. The final decision is yours, but it needs to be informed. Hogwarts would mean living in Scotland most of the year. Away from Gotham. Away from you and Alfred, Harry acknowledged, his enthusiasm dimming slightly. But it would also mean learning to control my magic properly. Understanding more about my parents. Bruce recognized the conflict in Harry's eyes, the same one he felt himself. 5 years ago, he had made an impulsive decision to rescue a boy from abuse. That boy had since become family in every way that mattered. The prospect of separation, even for something as important as magical education, was difficult to contemplate. What if we could find a compromise? Bruce suggested. I've been researching magical transportation. There may be options that would allow you to return to Gotham periodically. Harry brightened. Like the Floo network Dumbledore uses? Among other possibilities. Bruce set down the letter. Let me speak with Dumbledore. There might be a way for you to experience both worlds without having to choose between them. The relief on Harry's face was obvious. Thanks, Bruce. After breakfast, Harry retreated to his room to reread the Hogwarts materials while Bruce placed a call using the special communication device Dumbledore had provided, a small mirror enchanted to connect directly to the headmaster. Ah, Bruce, Dumbledore's face appeared in the mirror, his eyes twinkling behind half-moon spectacles. I presume Harry has received his letter. This morning, Bruce confirmed. We need to discuss arrangements. Indeed. I anticipated your concerns. Dumbledore's expression grew thoughtful. Perhaps I might visit this evening. This conversation would benefit from being in person rather than through this charmed glass. By dinner time, preparations were in place for Dumbledore's arrival. The old wizard had become an infrequent but regular visitor to Wayne Manor over the years, always arriving via the fireplace in Bruce's study, which had been connected to something called the Floo network specifically for this purpose. Harry waited expectantly, dressed in what Alfred deemed proper attire for receiving the headmaster of a prestigious magical institution. At precisely 7 o'clock, the fireplace flared green, and Albus Dumbledore stepped out, immaculate despite his mode of transportation. Good evening, he greeted them warmly. Harry, how wonderful to see you looking so well. You grow more like your father each time I visit, though those eyes remain entirely Lily's. Harry smiled at the mention of his birth parents. Through Dumbledore's stories and the magical photographs he had provided, Harry had developed a connection to James and Lily Potter that would have been impossible with the Dursleys. Over dinner, Alfred had outdone himself. Though he pretended the meal was nothing special, Dumbledore explained the traditional Hogwarts arrangements and listened attentively to Bruce's concerns. Quite understandable, Dumbledore nodded when Bruce emphasized the need for Harry to maintain connections to his life in Gotham. While Hogwarts traditionally keeps students on grounds throughout the term, exceptions can be made for extraordinary circumstances. And my situation counts as extraordinary? Harry asked. Dumbledore smiled. Harry, very little about your life has been ordinary, from the night you survived Voldemort's attack to your rather unique guardian arrangement. Yes, I believe we can justify special accommodations. Bruce leaned forward. What specifically are you proposing? A modified portkey system, Dumbledore explained. Portkeys are enchanted objects that transport wizards from one location to another at a predetermined time. I could create a special portkey that would bring Harry home each Friday evening and return him to Hogwarts Sunday night. Harry's face lit up. So I'd still get weekends at home? Precisely, Dumbledore confirmed. You would participate fully in Hogwarts life during the week, classes, meals, social activities, while maintaining your connection to Wayne Manor on weekends. What about security? Bruce asked, ever practical. The magical protections we established are anchored here. The blood protection travels with Harry, Dumbledore assured him. However, Hogwarts itself has protections that have safeguarded students for 1,000 years. Between those ancient enchantments and my personal oversight, Harry will be well protected during school hours. The discussion continued into the evening, addressing practicalities, how Harry would catch up on non-magical education during weekends, communication methods between Hogwarts and Gotham, and protocols for emergencies. By the end, a comprehensive plan had taken shape. There is one additional matter, Dumbledore said as the conversation wound down. Harry's identity in the wizarding world. Bruce frowned. What do you mean? While you legally adopted Harry, making him Harry Potter Wayne, he is known throughout Wizarding Britain simply as Harry Potter, the boy who lived. Dumbledore's expression grew serious. His arrival at Hogwarts will attract significant attention. How we manage this may affect both his educational experience and his security. Harry, who had been listening intently, asked, do people really care that much about me? I'm afraid so, Dumbledore said gently. You are something of a celebrity, a symbol of hope from a dark time. That makes you a target, Bruce added, his protective instincts flaring. Both for positive and negative attention. Harry considered this, unconsciously adopting the analytical expression he'd learned from Bruce. What if we keep the Wayne connection quiet at first? Not secret, exactly, but not advertised. I'll just be Harry Potter at school until people get to know the real me, not just some story about me. Bruce nodded approvingly. Harry was applying one of the first principles he'd taught him, control information to control situations. A wise approach, Dumbledore agreed. It would allow you to establish yourself on your own terms. After Dumbledore departed, promising to return in August to accompany them to Diagon Alley for school supplies, Harry found Bruce in the cave, reviewing case files. You're worried, Harry observed, settling into the chair beside him. Bruce didn't deny it. Their relationship had developed a foundation of honesty that Bruce had never expected to share with anyone, especially a child. Hogwarts takes you beyond my protection. Not completely, Harry pointed out. I'll be home every weekend. A lot can happen between Sundays and Fridays. Harry was quiet for a moment, then said, you know how you always tell me that being Batman isn't just about physical training or equipment, it's about thinking ahead, being prepared. Bruce nodded. That's what you've been teaching me for 5 years, Harry continued. How to think, how to analyze situations, how to adapt. I'm not just going to forget all that because I'm learning magic. Bruce turned to look at Harry directly, struck again by how much the boy had grown, not just physically, but in confidence and character. You're right. And this is important for you, connecting with your parents' world, learning to control your abilities. Besides, Harry added with a grin, think about all the new investigative techniques we could develop by combining your methods with magic. The ultimate detective toolkit. Despite his concerns, Bruce smiled. You've been spending too much time with Alfred. You're starting to sound like him. There are worse people to emulate, Harry replied with mock seriousness. After all, he puts up with both of us. Diagon Alley was unlike anything Harry had imagined, despite Dumbledore's descriptions and the magical theory books he'd studied. The hidden shopping district vibrated with energy, stores selling everything from cauldrons to racing brooms, apothecaries with ingredients Bruce immediately began categorizing by potential toxicity, and Gringotts Bank with its imposing goblin guards. It's brilliant, Harry breathed, trying to look everywhere at once. Bruce maintained his composed facade, but Harry recognized his guardian's assessment mode, cataloging information, identifying threats and exits, mapping the unfamiliar terrain. For Bruce, this was a whole new world of potential dangers to prepare for. Their first challenge came almost immediately. Despite Dumbledore's presence and the baseball cap Harry wore to partially obscure his famous scar, whispers followed them down the cobblestone street. Is that Harry Potter? Look at the scar. Harry instinctively employed the techniques Bruce had taught him for handling public attention as Bruce Wayne's ward: polite acknowledgement without engagement, controlled expressions, awareness without obvious reaction. All right? Bruce asked quietly as they navigated toward Gringotts. Harry nodded. Just applying lesson 43. Public persona management, Bruce recalled with approval. Dumbledore led them through the marble halls of Gringotts to a goblin teller. Mr. Harry Potter wishes to access his vault. The procedure that followed revealed another surprise: a trust vault filled with gold, silver, and bronze coins left to Harry by his parents. As they descended in the cart, Bruce maintained his stoic expression, but Harry knew he was filing away every detail of the magical banking system. This was your parents' provision for your education, Dumbledore explained as Harry stared at the mounds of wizard currency. The main Potter family vault will become accessible when you reach magical majority at 17. Harry filled a pouch with coins, feeling a complex mix of emotions about this tangible connection to his birth parents. Bruce, sensing his mood, placed a supportive hand on his shoulder. Your mother and father wanted to ensure your future, Bruce said quietly. Just as I do. With finances secured, they proceeded to gather Harry's school supplies. At Madame Malkin's robes, Harry encountered his first peer from the wizarding world, a pale, pointed-faced boy being fitted alongside him. Hogwarts too? The boy drawled. Yes, Harry replied simply, applying Bruce's lesson about revealing minimal information to unknowns. My father's next door buying books, and mother's up the street looking at wands, the boy continued in a bored voice. Then I'm going to drag them off to look at racing brooms. I don't see why first years can't have their own. I think I'll bully father into getting me one anyway. Harry's opinion of the boy dropped immediately. The casual mention of bullying parents reminded him uncomfortably of Dudley. Do you have your own broom? The boy asked. Not yet, Harry answered, thinking of the modified Wayne Tech prototype Bruce had been developing, a non-magical broom with actual flight capabilities that they'd been testing in the cave. Play Quidditch at all? I've studied the theory, Harry said truthfully. Bruce had insisted he understand the rules and strategies of wizard sports as part of his cultural education. The boy looked skeptical. Studied the theory? What are you, a Muggle-born? Before Harry could respond, Bruce appeared beside him, having completed a quiet conversation with Dumbledore near the entrance. The boy took in Bruce's expensive Muggle suit and commanding presence with widening eyes. Are you finished, Harry? Bruce asked. Nearly, Harry replied, noting how the boy reacted to his name with sudden recognition. Wait, you're Harry Potter, the boy exclaimed, all pretense of disinterest vanishing. Harry Potter Wayne, Bruce corrected smoothly, extending his hand to the boy with practiced Wayne Enterprises diplomacy. And you are? Draco Malfoy, the boy replied, shaking Bruce's hand with obvious confusion. Wayne. As in, we need to continue our shopping, Bruce interrupted politely but firmly. Perhaps you boys will meet again at Hogwarts. Outside, Harry asked, what was that about? You usually don't interrupt like that. Malfoy is a name Dumbledore mentioned, Bruce explained quietly. His father was allegedly one of Voldemort's supporters, claimed to be under mind control after Voldemort fell. Dumbledore has concerns about his continuing influence in wizarding politics. Harry processed this with the seriousness Bruce had cultivated in him. So Draco could be a potential source of information, or a potential threat. Potentially both, Bruce acknowledged. Watch, observe, but maintain your distance until you have more data. Their final stop, Ollivander's for Harry's wand, proved the most remarkable. The ancient wandmaker's shop was dusty and quiet, filled with thousands of narrow boxes. Ollivander himself appeared suddenly, his silver eyes wide and unblinking as he recognized Harry. I've been expecting you, Mr. Potter, he said softly. You have your mother's eyes. The wand selection process was unlike anything in Harry's experience. After trying dozens of wands with increasingly spectacular failed results, including one that shattered a vase and another that sent sparks shooting into Bruce's perfectly styled hair, Ollivander became more excited rather than discouraged. Tricky customer. Excellent, excellent. I wonder. He disappeared into the back of his shop, returning with a dusty box. Holly and phoenix feather, 11 inches, nice and supple. The moment Harry grasped this wand, warmth flooded his fingers. He raised it and brought it swishing down, producing a stream of red and gold sparks that danced like fireworks. Curious, Ollivander murmured, fixing Harry with that unsettling silver stare. Very curious indeed. What's curious? Harry asked, still marveling at the connection he felt to the wand. I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter. The phoenix whose tail feather resides in your wand gave just one other feather. Just one. It is curious that you should be destined for this wand when its brother, why, its brother gave you that scar. A chill ran down Harry's spine. Bruce stepped closer, his presence solid and reassuring. Yes, 13.5 inches. You. The wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Potter. I think we must expect great things from you. After all, he who must not be named did great things, terrible, yes, but great. As they left the shop, Harry noticed Bruce's expression had darkened. What are you thinking? He asked. That information has strategic implications, Bruce replied. A connection between your wand and Voldemort's could be significant. Good significant or bad significant? Unknown, Bruce said honestly. But knowing is better than not knowing. File it away, it may become relevant later. Their final evening in London before Harry's departure for Hogwarts was spent reviewing preparations. Bruce had enhanced Harry's trunk with several non-magical security features and hidden compartments. They had established communication protocols, a special mirror similar to Dumbledore's for emergencies, plus regular letters via owl post. Remember, Bruce said as they went through the checklist one final time, maintain awareness of your surroundings at all times. Constant vigilance, Harry agreed with a slight smile. Trust carefully but verify consistently. Your weekend port key will activate at precisely 7 p.m. every Friday. If you're not holding it at that time, contact you immediately through the mirror, Harry finished. Bruce, we've gone over this a dozen times. I'm ready. Bruce looked at the boy he'd raised for the past 5 years, no longer the frightened child from the cupboard but a confident, thoughtful young man prepared to step into a world Bruce couldn't fully share. I know you are, Bruce admitted. That doesn't make it easy. Harry's expression softened. I'm going to miss you too. And Alfred. But I'll be back every weekend with new stories and probably a ton of magical theory for us to analyze. Bruce smiled despite himself. Alfred's already planning your favorite meals for Friday nights. And what about? Harry glanced around, lowering his voice, the night work. This had been a point of ongoing negotiation. Harry had known Bruce was Batman since the beginning, and over the years had gradually become more involved in the analytical and investigative aspects of Bruce's mission. He wasn't permitted in the field, of course, but he'd proven remarkably adept at pattern recognition and case analysis. We'll continue your training on weekends, Bruce said. And I've prepared case files you can study at Hogwarts, coded, of course, to look like ordinary schoolwork to anyone else. Harry nodded, satisfied. Though magic would be his focus at Hogwarts, he had no intention of abandoning the skills Bruce had taught him. In his mind, the two paths complemented each other, magic and detective work, power and precision. One last thing, Bruce added, retrieving a small box from his desk. This is for emergencies only. Inside the box was what appeared to be an ordinary watch, elegant but not flashy, suitable for an 11-year-old. Wayne Enterprises prototype, Bruce explained. It contains a locator beacon that will work even within magical environments, plus a few other features. Alfred helped design it to look like a normal Muggle watch so it won't attract attention. Harry slipped it on, recognizing it as both a practical tool and something more, Bruce's way of maintaining a connection, of providing protection even from a distance. "Thanks," Harry said simply, then impulsively hugged his guardian. Such displays weren't common between them, but in that moment, both needed the reassurance of connection. Platform 9 3/4 was a riot of activity, families saying goodbyes, students reuniting after summer holidays, owls hooting in cages, cats weaving between legs. Harry, Bruce, and Alfred stood slightly apart from the chaos, taking it all in. "Remember, young Master Harry," Alfred said, straightening Harry's jacket with practiced hands, "proper nutrition is essential even at a magical boarding school. Do not subsist entirely on whatever passes for sweets in the wizarding world." Harry grinned. "I'll try to eat my vegetables, Alfred." "See that you do." Alfred's voice held its usual dry humor, but his eyes betrayed genuine emotion. "The manor will be distressingly orderly without you underfoot. I've arranged for a house elf to deliver your weekend port key each Friday," Bruce reminded him. "Dumbledore assured me they're discreet. And I've packed additional provisions in the hidden compartment of your trunk," Alfred added. "Emergency supplies, basic medical items, and a few comforts from home." As they spoke, a large family of redheads bustled past, the mother herding 4 boys and a young girl while calling out instructions. "Packed with muggles, of course, Fred, you next." "I'm not Fred, I'm George." The casual mention of muggles caught Harry's attention. Bruce nodded subtly. These were definitely a wizarding family. When the red-headed boys had disappeared through the seemingly solid barrier between platforms 9 and 10, Bruce suggested, "Perhaps we should ask them for guidance." The plump, kind-faced woman was only too happy to explain the platform access when Bruce inquired politely. "First time at Hogwarts?" "Ron's new too," she said, indicating her youngest son, a tall, gangly boy with a smudge on his nose. Ron gave Harry a friendly nod, which Harry returned. The first potential ally at Hogwarts, Harry noted mentally. After a demonstration by the young girl, Ginny, according to her mother, Harry prepared to follow. He turned to Bruce and Alfred for a final goodbye. "I'll see you Friday evening," Harry said, maintaining composure despite the butterflies in his stomach. "We'll be waiting," Bruce replied. Something unspoken passed between them, trust, pride, connection. Alfred cleared his throat. "Do remember to write, Master Harry. I expect full reports on the magical cuisine, at minimum." With a last smile at his adoptive family, Harry pushed his trolley toward the barrier and broke into a run. There was a moment of darkness, then he emerged onto a platform where a scarlet steam engine waited, the words "Hogwarts Express" emblazoned on its side. He had just finished loading his trunk onto the train when he spotted the red-headed family again. The mother was now fussing over her youngest son. "Ron, you've got something on your nose," she said, trying to rub it clean while he squirmed away. "Mom, Geroff," Ron protested, pulling free. Harry decided to follow Bruce's advice about establishing allies early. "Need a hand with that?" he offered, gesturing to Ron's trunk. "Yeah, thanks," Ron said gratefully. Together they managed to haul the trunk aboard and find an empty compartment. As they settled in, Ron stared at Harry with growing realization. Do you have," he pointed toward Harry's forehead. Harry sighed internally but kept his expression neutral as he lifted his hair to reveal the scar. "Blimey," Ron breathed. "So you're Harry Potter?" "That's me," Harry confirmed, bracing for the usual barrage of questions. But Ron surprised him. After the initial shock, he seemed embarrassed by his reaction. "Sorry. Must be annoying, everyone staring at your head all the time." Harry relaxed slightly. "A bit, yeah. I'm Ron Weasley," the boy offered, extending his hand the way Bruce always did when meeting new people. Harry shook it firmly. "Nice to meet you." As the train pulled away from the station, Harry caught a final glimpse of Bruce and Alfred on the platform, Bruce's tall, imposing figure and Alfred's dignified stance unmistakable even among the crowd. Then the train rounded a corner, and Gotham life was temporarily behind him. The journey to Hogwarts provided Harry his first extended interaction with a magical peer. Ron was open and talkative, explaining wizarding concepts without the condescension Harry had detected in Draco Malfoy. In return, Harry shared carefully edited information about himself, mentioning his adoption without specifying Bruce's identity, discussing his interest in detective work without revealing the Batcave training. "So you live in America now?" Ron asked, impressed. "What's that like?" "Different," Harry said diplomatically. "Gotham City is intense. Not always the safest place, but it's home." Their conversation was interrupted by various visitors, a round-faced boy named Neville looking for his lost toad, a bushy-haired girl named Hermione Granger who spoke in rapid, information-dense paragraphs, and eventually, Draco Malfoy flanked by two large boys he introduced as Crabbe and Goyle. "They're saying all down the train that Harry Potter's in this compartment," Malfoy said, his eyes fixed on Harry's scar. "But at Madame Malkin's, you said something about Wayne." His tone suggested this discrepancy required explanation. Harry assessed the situation quickly. Malfoy was fishing for information, likely at his father's instruction given what Bruce had shared about the Malfoy family's political connections. "I was adopted after my parents died," Harry said simply. "My legal name is Potter Wayne, but most people in the wizarding world know me as Potter." Malfoy's eyes narrowed slightly. "That man with you in Diagon Alley, he was your adoptive father?" "A Muggle?" The way Malfoy said "Muggle" carried obvious disdain. Harry noted Ron's expression darkening beside him. "Bruce Wayne," Harry confirmed, watching Malfoy's reaction carefully. "He's my guardian." Recognition flashed in Malfoy's eyes, clearly the Wayne name carried weight even in wizarding circles. He extended his hand to Harry. "You'll soon find that some wizarding families are better than others, Potter. I can help you there." Harry observed Malfoy's dismissive glance toward Ron, the possessive stance, the expectation of automatic deference. It reminded him of the power dynamics Bruce had taught him to recognize in Gotham's elite circles. "I think I can figure that out for myself, thanks," Harry replied coolly, not taking the offered hand. Malfoy's pale face flushed pink. "I'd be careful if I were you, Potter. Unless you're politer, you'll go the same way as your parents." They didn't know what was good for them either. Harry felt a surge of anger but controlled it, employing the techniques Bruce had drilled into him. Never let opponents see your emotional triggers. He stood slowly, meeting Malfoy's gaze with calculated intensity. "That sounded like a threat, Malfoy," Harry said quietly. "Is that what your father taught you, to threaten orphans about their murdered parents?" Malfoy stepped back involuntarily, clearly not expecting this direct confrontation from someone his own age. "Just giving friendly advice," he recovered, though his voice lacked conviction. "Come on, Crabbe, Goyle." After they departed, Ron stared at Harry with newfound respect. That was brilliant. Most people are terrified of Malfoy because of his father. Harry shrugged, settling back into his seat. Bullies rely on fear. Take that away, and they usually back down. Ron gave him a curious look. "You're different from what I expected." "What did you expect?" "I dunno. Someone more celebratory, I guess." "You're so serious sometimes." Harry smiled slightly. "Let's just say my upbringing wasn't exactly normal." Hogwarts Castle exceeded even Harry's expectations. As the first years crossed the lake in small boats, the ancient structure loomed above them, windows sparkling against the night sky. Even Bruce, with his appreciation for Gothic architecture, would have been impressed. The sorting ceremony introduced another element of wizarding culture, the sorting hat, which apparently could read minds to determine which of the four houses best suited each student. Harry listened attentively to its song, analyzing the described traits of each house. When Professor McGonagall finally called, "Potter, Harry," whispers erupted throughout the hall. "Potter, did she say? The Harry Potter?" Harry walked forward with the calm confidence Bruce had instilled in him, feeling hundreds of eyes tracking his movement. The hat dropped over his eyes, and a small voice spoke in his ear. Difficult. Very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind either. There's talent, my goodness, yes, and a nice thirst to prove yourself. But what's this? Such unusual training for one so young. Analytical, strategic, disciplined, these are Ravenclaw or Slytherin traits. Yet there's that Gryffindor bravery too. And loyalty, where to put you? Harry thought of Bruce, who operated from the shadows but with a moral core of steel. Of his birth parents, who had died protecting him. Interesting, the hat murmured. You could do well in any house, you know. Slytherin could help you on the path to greatness, no doubt about that. Your guardian has taught you much about using shadows and cunning. I don't need greatness, Harry thought. Just the right tools to protect people and find the truth. Well, if you're sure, better be Gryffindor. The Gryffindor table erupted with cheers, the Weasley twins chanting, "We got Potter." We got Potter, as Harry joined their table, sitting beside an enthusiastic Ron who was sorted shortly after. The welcoming feast provided Harry's first experience with mass-produced magical food. He noted Alfred would have approved of the quality if not the quantity, and discreetly observed the staff table where Dumbledore presided. His attention was drawn to two particular professors, a nervous-looking man in a purple turban whose gaze never quite settled anywhere, and a hook-nosed, black-haired man who was watching Harry with undisguised dislike. "Who's the professor in black?" Harry asked Percy Weasley, Ron's prefect brother. "Professor Snape. He teaches potions, but everyone knows he wants the defense against the dark arts job. Knows an awful lot about the dark arts, Snape does." When Snape's eyes met Harry's, a sharp pain shot across his scar. Harry's hand instinctively moved toward it, his expression remaining neutral despite the discomfort. "You all right?" Ron asked through a mouthful of potatoes. "Fine," Harry replied automatically, filing away the incident for later analysis. Dumbledore had warned him his scar might react to magical stimuli connected to Voldemort. Was there a connection to Snape, or something else? After the feast, the Gryffindor first-years followed Percy through the castle to their dormitory behind a portrait of a fat lady in a pink dress. The password, Caput Draconis, granted them access to a cozy circular room filled with squashy armchairs and a crackling fire. In the first-year boys' dormitory, Harry found his trunk already placed beside a four-poster bed hung with deep red, velvet curtains. As his new dorm mates, Ron, Neville, Seamus Finnegan, and Dean Thomas, settled in, Harry quietly activated the security measures Bruce had integrated into his trunk and placed his wand under his pillow within easy reach. Later, as the others slept, Harry lay awake considering his first impressions of Hogwarts. The castle felt alive in a way Wayne Manor, for all its history, did not, saturated with centuries of magical energy and secrets waiting to be discovered. Harry could almost hear Bruce's voice in his mind. Every new environment contains both threats and opportunities. Identify both. Tomorrow, his magical education would truly begin. But tonight, Harry allowed himself a moment of simple appreciation. He was exactly where his parents had been at his age, learning the same skills, walking the same halls. For the first time, he felt connected to them not just through photographs and stories, but through shared experience. It wasn't Gotham. It wasn't the cave with its familiar technology and Bruce's steady presence. But it was, in its own way, coming home. Harry's first week at Hogwarts was a crash course in magical education and wizarding culture. Each class presented unique challenges and opportunities. In Transfiguration, Professor McGonagall's precision and no-nonsense approach reminded Harry of Bruce's training methods. When she transformed her desk into a pig and back again, Harry immediately began analyzing the process from a scientific perspective, earning an approving nod from McGonagall when he asked specific questions about conservation of mass and energy. Charms with tiny Professor Flitwick proved more intuitive. The diminutive professor squeaked excitedly when calling Harry's name during roll call, but otherwise treated him normally, something Harry appreciated. Defense against the dark arts was disappointingly theoretical. Professor Quirrell's stuttering delivery and apparent fear of his own subject frustrated Harry, who had expected practical defensive techniques. He made mental notes to supplement this learning with books from the library. Herbology introduced magical plants and fungi with practical applications Harry immediately recognized. Bruce had trained him to identify botanical components in various toxins and antidotes. Magical plants would add a new dimension to this knowledge. History of magic, taught by the ghost Professor Binns, tested Harry's concentration skills. While most students dozed through Binns' monotonous lectures, Harry employed the mental focus techniques Bruce had taught him, recognizing that historical context might prove valuable. The true test came Friday morning, double potions with the Slytherins and Professor Snape. From the moment Harry entered the dungeon classroom, he sensed Snape's hostility. "Ah, yes," Snape said softly during roll call, "Harry Potter. Our new celebrity." Draco Malfoy and his friends sniggered behind their hands. Harry maintained a neutral expression, meeting Snape's gaze steadily. What followed was a deliberate attempt to humiliate Harry through increasingly obscure questions. "Potter. What would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood?" Harry recalled the potion's text he'd studied over the summer. "The draught of living death, sir. A powerful sleeping potion." Snape's lips curled. "Where would you look if I told you to find me a bezoar?" "In the stomach of a goat," Harry answered promptly. "It's an antidote to most poisons." "What is the difference, Potter, between monkshood and wolfsbane?" "They're the same plant, also known as aconite." Each correct answer seemed to irritate Snape further. By the end of class, despite brewing a perfectly acceptable potion with Ron, Harry had lost a point for Gryffindor on the technicality of not helping Neville prevent his cauldron explosion. That was completely unfair, Ron fumed as they left the dungeons. "Snape's always favoring the Slytherins, but he seems to really hate you." "It's personal," Harry observed calmly, thinking of the behavior analysis techniques Bruce had taught him. He knew my name before roll call, and his questions weren't testing my knowledge, they were meant to establish dominance. Ron stared at him. "How do you figure these things out?" Harry shrugged. "Observation. Body language, tone, context. There's history there somehow." That evening, Harry wrote detailed letters to both Bruce and Dumbledore. To Bruce, he provided comprehensive analysis of each professor, class structure, and potential areas for supplemental study. To Dumbledore, he posed specific questions about Snape's history and the sharp pain in his scar. At precisely 7 p.m., Harry held the special port key, a seemingly ordinary fountain pen, and felt the distinctive hook behind his navel that Dumbledore had warned him about. The world blurred, and seconds later, he landed in his bedroom at Wayne Manor. Bruce was waiting, his normally stoic expression softening slightly at Harry's arrival. "Welcome home." Harry grinned, the tension of navigating his first week at Hogwarts melting away. "Good to be back." Over a welcome home dinner prepared by an uncharacteristically enthusiastic Alfred, Harry shared his experiences, the classes, the castle's layout, which he was systematically mapping, and his initial assessments of students and faculty. "Snape clearly has some connection to my parents," Harry concluded. "The hostility is too specific to be random." Bruce nodded thoughtfully. "I'll discuss it with Dumbledore." "What about the scar pain you mentioned in your letter?" "Only happened once, when Snape looked directly at me." "Could be coincidence." "We don't believe in coincidences," Bruce reminded him. "Keep tracking occurrences, look for patterns." After dinner, they descended to the cave for Harry's weekend training session. Though Bruce had originally planned a light schedule given Harry's first week away, the boy insisted on maintaining their usual routine. "Magic is fascinating," Harry explained as he moved through combat forms, "but it has limitations. Most wizards seem to rely on wands exclusively, with minimal physical training or tactical thinking." Bruce corrected Harry's stance slightly. "That creates exploitable vulnerabilities." "Exactly. Harry executed a perfect spinning kick. If I combine your training with magical techniques, I'll have options most wizards wouldn't anticipate. Bruce watched Harry with pride mixed with concern. At 11, he was already thinking about tactical advantages and integrated skill sets. Part of Bruce wondered if he had pushed the boy too hard, too soon, if Harry's childhood had been sacrificed to training the way Bruce's own had been to grief. What about friends? Bruce asked as they moved to the computer station to review case files. You mentioned Ron Weasley, Hermione Granger. Harry seemed surprised by the question. They're fine. Ron's loyal but impulsive. Hermione's brilliant but needs to develop better social awareness. Neville has potential but severe confidence issues. Bruce recognized the analytical assessment. It was exactly how he himself would evaluate team members or informants. And outside of their tactical value? Do you enjoy their company? Harry paused, considering. Yes, I do. Ron makes me laugh. Hermione challenges me intellectually. Neville's genuinely kind. He looked at Bruce curiously. Why do you ask? Because school isn't just about education or training, Bruce said carefully. It's also about connections, experiences. Part of being effective in any environment is developing authentic relationships. Harry absorbed this with characteristic thoughtfulness. You're worried I'm being too Batman about everything? The corner of Bruce's mouth twitched. Something like that. I'll work on it, Harry promised. Maybe I could invite Ron to visit during Christmas break. His family seems nice. Bruce nodded approvingly. Good idea. The weekend established a pattern that would continue throughout Harry's first term: intensive training and case review with Bruce, Alfred's culinary indulgence, and detailed planning for the week ahead. By Sunday evening, when Harry returned to Hogwarts, he felt balanced between his two worlds in a way he hadn't expected. As weeks passed, Harry developed a reputation at Hogwarts for calm competence and unexpected skills. In charms, when most students struggled with the levitation spell, Harry's disciplined approach, breaking the wand movement and pronunciation into precise components, earned him early success and 10 points for Gryffindor. How did you get it so quickly? Hermione asked, both impressed and slightly put out that someone had mastered the spell before her. Think of it like a physical technique, Harry explained. It's not just words and waving, it's about focus, intent, and precise execution. His approach to flying lessons similarly surprised his classmates. While most students either feared their first broom experience or boasted overconfidence, Harry approached it methodically, applying physics principles Bruce had taught him about flight dynamics. When Neville lost control of his broom and fell, breaking his wrist, Harry calmly helped Madame Hooch stabilize the injury using first aid techniques Bruce had drilled into him. Excellent work, Potter, Madame Hooch said approvingly. Most first-years panic at the sight of blood. Harry shrugged. Basic field medicine. It's useful to know. This incident cemented his friendship with Neville, who appreciated Harry's matter-of-fact assistance without pity or mockery. It also brought Harry closer to Hermione, who was impressed by his practical knowledge and began seeking his input on study approaches. You organize information differently than anyone I've met, she observed one evening in the library. It's almost like you're building a case file rather than just taking notes. Harry smiled slightly. Old habit. My guardian taught me to analyze information systematically. Ron, meanwhile, appreciated Harry's willingness to explain magical concepts in straightforward terms. Coming from a wizarding family, Ron had never needed to articulate the basics of magic before. You make it make sense, Ron said after Harry helped him master a particularly tricky transfiguration. McGonagall just expects us to get it, and Hermione uses too many big words. These developing friendships enriched Harry's Hogwarts experience, providing perspectives he wouldn't have considered on his own. Hermione's academic discipline complemented his practical approach, Ron's strategic thinking, brilliantly displayed in wizard chess, offered alternative tactical considerations, and Neville's knowledge of magical plants expanded Harry's understanding of natural resources. Not all relationships were positive, however. Draco Malfoy seemed determined to antagonize Harry at every opportunity, particularly after Harry's skill on a broomstick earned him a spot as Seeker on the Gryffindor Quidditch team, the youngest player in a century. Special treatment for the famous Potter, Malfoy sneered after the announcement. I wonder what strings your Muggle guardian pulled to bend the first-year rules. Harry regarded him with the cool assessment he'd learned from Bruce. Professor McGonagall made that decision based on skill, Malfoy. Though if you'd like flying lessons, I'd be happy to provide some pointers. The Slytherin's face flushed with anger. My father says it's a disgrace, you know, the heir of a proper wizarding family being raised by a Muggle, even a rich one. He says it goes against natural order. Your father seems very concerned about my living arrangements, Harry observed mildly. I wonder why that is. The question hit its mark. Malfoy's expression revealed that his father did indeed discuss Harry frequently at home, information Harry filed away for future reference. During his weekend returns to Wayne Manor, Harry shared these social dynamics with Bruce, who listened with the same intensity he gave to criminal profiles. Malfoy's behavior suggests he's under pressure from his father, Bruce noted. The constant references indicate he's reporting back about you. That's my assessment too, Harry agreed. Lucius Malfoy wants information about me, particularly about my connection to you. Bruce's expression darkened slightly. Dumbledore mentioned Lucius has been making inquiries at the Ministry of Magic about your guardianship. Nothing overt, but persistent. Is there a legal concern? Harry asked, immediately alert to potential threats. No. Your adoption is ironclad in both worlds. But it suggests Lucius views your placement with a non-magical guardian as somehow significant to his interests. Bruce pulled up a digital file he'd been compiling. Dumbledore believes Lucius was one of Voldemort's inner circle, he claimed to be under mind control, but evidence suggests otherwise. Harry considered this. So his interest in me could be connected to Voldemort? Possibly. Or it could be political. Dumbledore says Lucius wields significant influence in wizarding government. Your status as a cultural icon raised outside that system might threaten the narrative he promotes. This conversation highlighted the value of Harry's dual perspective. While his Hogwarts professors taught magical theory and practice, Bruce provided strategic analysis and broader context. Together, they began mapping the power structures of Wizarding Britain, identifying key players and their potential motivations. As Halloween approached, Harry's investigation skills found a more immediate application. The third-floor corridor that Dumbledore had declared off-limits to everyone who does not wish to die a very painful death, presented an irresistible mystery. It's got to be protecting something valuable, Harry theorized to Ron and Hermione as they studied in the library. The question is what and why at a school? Maybe it's dangerous magical artifacts, Ron suggested. Dad says Hogwarts has all sorts of ancient things stored away. Hermione looked skeptical. But why announce it? That just draws attention. Exactly, Harry agreed. A public warning means either the threat is so severe it overrides secrecy concerns, or what? Ron prompted. Or drawing attention is part of the purpose, Harry finished. Like bait. Their investigation accelerated after a chance encounter with a massive three-headed dog behind a locked door that Filch nearly caught them near. Harry's quick thinking, both in picking the lock to escape Filch and in calming his friends enough to observe details about the creature, turned potential disaster into valuable information. It was standing on a trapdoor, Harry noted afterward, sketching the scene from memory as Bruce had taught him. It's guarding something. Hermione was impressed by his observational skills. How did you notice that while a giant three-headed dog was trying to eat us? Details matter, Harry said simply. And I've had practice staying calm under pressure. The Halloween feast brought the mystery into sharper focus. When Professor Quirrell burst into the Great Hall announcing a troll in the dungeons, Harry immediately noted inconsistencies: Quirrell's calculated timing, the direction he fell when fainting, the fact that the defense professor should have been capable of handling a troll himself. While teachers rushed to the dungeons, Harry remembered Hermione had been crying in the girls' bathroom after Ron's thoughtless comment earlier that day. "She doesn't know about the troll," Harry said, grabbing Ron's arm. "We need to warn her." Their rescue mission succeeded, though not as planned. When they found the troll already in the bathroom with Hermione, Harry employed Bruce's tactics for fighting larger opponents, using environment, distraction, and precision strikes rather than brute force. Ron's improvised use of the levitation charm to drop the troll's club on its head provided the finishing blow. "That was brilliant," Ron exclaimed afterward, adrenaline making him giddy. "The way you slid under its legs and then climbed on its back." Harry downplayed his role, but the incident cemented their friendship with Hermione, who covered for them with the teachers. More significantly, it revealed something important to Harry: Quirrell's behavior didn't align with his persona, and the troll incident had emptied the castle while staff focused on the dungeons. "A diversion," Harry murmured to himself as they returned to Gryffindor Tower. But for what purpose? The next day, Harry heard that Snape had been injured, a serious dog bite on his leg. The pieces clicked together: while everyone was distracted by the troll, someone had attempted to get past the three-headed dog. Given Snape's injury and Quirrell's suspicious behavior, Harry had two primary suspects. During his weekend return to Wayne Manor, Harry presented his findings to Bruce in the same format he'd seen used for Gotham cases: evidence, suspects, timeline, and potential motives. "Impressive analysis," Bruce acknowledged, studying Harry's meticulous notes. "You've established that something valuable is hidden beneath the trapdoor and that someone within Hogwarts wants to steal it. The question is what and who," Harry said, frustration evident in his voice. "I've tried researching valuable magical artifacts, but without knowing what I'm looking for specifically." "Start with timing," Bruce suggested. "Why hide something at Hogwarts now? What's changed recently?" Harry considered this approach. "Well, during our Gringotts visit, Hagrid removed a small package from Vault 713 under Dumbledore's orders. He called it Hogwarts business, very secret. And you didn't mention this earlier because..." Harry had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "It didn't seem relevant until I connected it to the third-floor corridor. But there was a break-in at Gringotts that same day. The Daily Prophet reported it was the same vault, but nothing was stolen because it had been emptied earlier." Bruce nodded approvingly. "That's your connection. Something valuable enough to risk breaking into Gringotts was moved to Hogwarts for safekeeping. But what could be so valuable? And who wants it badly enough to release a troll as diversion?" "Those are the right questions," Bruce agreed. "I suggest a two-pronged approach: research possible high-value magical items while monitoring your suspects for additional behavioral clues." Harry implemented this strategy upon returning to Hogwarts, discreetly tracking both Snape and Quirrell while researching with Ron and Hermione. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source: a chocolate frog card featuring Dumbledore mentioned his work with Nicholas Flamel, which Hermione eventually connected to the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary artifact capable of producing the elixir of life and turning metal into gold. "Immortality and infinite wealth," Harry mused. "That's certainly worth stealing. But who's trying to steal it?" Ron wondered. "Snape's unpleasant enough, but would he really betray Dumbledore?" Harry remained uncertain. Snape's hostility toward him continued unabated in potions, but the professor's loyalty to Dumbledore seemed genuine based on interactions Harry had observed. Meanwhile, Quirrell's bumbling persona increasingly struck Harry as inconsistent with his occasional sharp, calculating glances when he thought no one was watching. The first Quidditch match of the season brought matters to a head. Midway through the game, Harry's broomstick began trying to buck him off, clearly the result of dark magic tampering. From her position in the stands, Hermione spotted Snape staring at Harry, muttering continuously. "It must be him," she concluded, rushing to set fire to Snape's robes as a distraction. The interference worked. Harry regained control of his broom and caught the snitch, securing a Gryffindor victory. But afterward, when reviewing the incident with his friends, Harry wasn't convinced of Snape's guilt. Counter-jinxing looks the same as jinxing, he explained. You need constant eye contact for both. Snape might have been trying to save me. But who else could it have been? Hermione asked. Harry didn't share his suspicions yet, he needed more evidence before accusing a teacher as apparently harmless as Quirrell. When he discussed the incident with Bruce that weekend, however, he was more forthcoming. Something's off about Quirrell, Harry insisted. His stutter comes and goes depending on who he's talking to. Sometimes he moves like someone much more physically capable than he presents. And he was also maintaining eye contact during the match. Hermione just didn't notice because she focused on Snape. Bruce considered this assessment seriously. Trust your instincts. They're based on observation and pattern recognition, not just feeling. There's something else, Harry added hesitantly. My scar hurts sometimes when Quirrell is nearby, especially if his back is to me. It's happened multiple times now. Bruce's expression sharpened. That's significant. Dumbledore said your scar might react to Voldemort's magic or presence. If Quirrell is somehow connected. You think Voldemort is involved with the theft attempt? Harry felt a chill at the possibility. It's a theory worth investigating, Bruce said carefully. The Philosopher's Stone would be immensely valuable to someone trying to return from near death. This conversation marked a turning point in Harry's approach to the mystery. With Bruce's guidance, he began treating the situation not just as a school puzzle but as a potential threat requiring Batman-level investigation. Over Christmas break, while most students returned home, Harry divided his time between Gotham and Hogwarts. His first Christmas at Wayne Manor was a warm, surprisingly festive affair, with Alfred outdoing himself decorating the normally austere manor and Bruce awkwardly but sincerely participating in holiday traditions he'd largely abandoned after his parents' deaths. Alfred says we're restoring some Wayne family traditions this year, Bruce explained as they gathered around an enormous tree in the main hall. Apparently my father was quite enthusiastic about Christmas. The gifts exchanged were thoughtful rather than extravagant, books on advanced defensive techniques from Bruce, a hand-knitted sweater from Mrs. Weasley, Ron had clearly mentioned Harry to his mother, and from Dumbledore, a fluid, silvery cloak that had once belonged to Harry's father. An invisibility cloak, Harry breathed, running the material through his fingers. And it was my dad's. Bruce examined the cloak with fascination, his scientific curiosity engaged by magic that could render the wearer truly invisible. The tactical applications are significant, he noted, then caught himself. Though I'm sure your father used it primarily for academic purposes. Harry grinned. According to Dumbledore's note, he and his friends used it mostly for sneaking to the kitchens to steal food. The cloak provided new investigative opportunities when Harry returned to Hogwarts. Using it to access the restricted section of the library at night, he accidentally discovered the Mirror of Erist, a magical artifact showing the viewer's deepest desire. What Harry saw in the mirror shook him profoundly. There stood Bruce and his birth parents together, alongside Alfred and friends from both his worlds, all watching him with pride as he stood between them, neither fully Batman's protégé nor solely the Wizarding world's hero, but something uniquely his own. A dangerous object, the Mirror of Erist, came Dumbledore's voice from behind him on his third visit. Men have wasted away before it, entranced by what they see. Harry hadn't heard the headmaster approach, a rare lapse in his Batman-trained awareness. It shows what we want most, he said quietly. Yes. The happiest man on earth would look into the mirror and see only himself, exactly as he is. Dumbledore studied Harry thoughtfully. May I ask what you see, Harry? Harry hesitated, then decided on honesty. My family. All of them, my parents, Bruce, Alfred. Together. A most revealing desire, Dumbledore said gently. Not power or glory, but connection. The mirror will be moved tomorrow, Harry. I ask you not to seek it again. It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. As winter gave way to spring, Harry maintained his dual education, excelling in magical classes while continuing his detective training during weekend returns to Gotham. The mystery of the Philosopher's Stone remained at the forefront of his mind, particularly after overhearing an argument between Snape and Quirrell that suggested Quirrell was the last defense preventing access to the stone. "It sounds like there are multiple protections," Harry explained to Ron and Hermione. "Different obstacles set by different teachers. And Quirrell's protection is the final one still holding. So Snape is pressuring Quirrell to help him get the stone," Ron interpreted. "Or," Harry suggested carefully, "Quirrell is the one after the stone, and Snape suspects him." This theory gained credibility after they learned from Hagrid that he had revealed the secret to calming the three-headed dog, Music, to a stranger in a pub, who had then given him a dragon egg. The coincidence was too perfect, someone had deliberately extracted this crucial information. Events accelerated rapidly after Hagrid's dragon hatched, creating a complicated situation that ultimately landed Harry, Hermione, and Neville in detention for being caught out after hours. Their punishment, a night in the Forbidden Forest with Hagrid, led to Harry's first direct encounter with evidence of Voldemort's continued existence. Deep in the forest, Harry witnessed a hooded figure drinking unicorn blood, a substance Firenze the Centaur explained would keep someone alive even if near death, but at a terrible cost. The figure advanced on Harry, causing excruciating pain in his scar, before Firenze intervened. "The unicorn blood is for Voldemort," Harry told Bruce that weekend, his voice tense with urgency. "And I think he's working through Quirrell somehow, possessing him or controlling him." Bruce, who had been preparing for this possibility since their earlier discussions, immediately activated enhanced security protocols at Wayne Manor. "If Voldemort is making moves to return, we need to accelerate your training." "I think he'll try for the stone before the term ends," Harry said. "The unicorn blood is a temporary measure. The elixir of life would restore him completely." They spent the weekend developing contingency plans, both magical and non-magical approaches to various scenarios. Bruce focused particularly on escape strategies and defensive techniques that wouldn't rely solely on magic, knowing Harry would be at a disadvantage against a fully trained dark wizard. "Remember," Bruce emphasized as they worked through combat simulations, "your advantage is that you operate in both worlds. Wizards rarely anticipate non-magical approaches." Harry nodded, absorbing the lesson. "Unexpected angles of attack. Like using Wayne tech against magical threats." "Exactly. Intelligence, preparation, adaptability, these are weapons no one can take from you." When Harry returned to Hogwarts, end-of-year exams provided temporary distraction from the stone situation. Despite the looming threat, Harry maintained his academic focus, applying Bruce's discipline to magical studies. Hermione was impressed by his ability to remain calm during the intense examination period. "How are you not panicking?" she asked as they left their final exam. "Everyone else is a nervous wreck." Harry shrugged. "Perspective helps. These are important, but not life or death important." As it happened, life or death situations were precisely what awaited them. Shortly after exams concluded, Harry connected several pieces of information and realized the theft attempt would happen that night. Dumbledore had been lured away from the school, and all the pieces were in place for Quirrell, not Snape, as Ron and Hermione still suspected, to make his move. "We have to stop him ourselves," Harry decided when McGonagall dismissed their warnings. "No one else will believe us in time." That night, Harry, Ron, and Hermione made their way to the forbidden third-floor corridor, armed with determination and the various skills each brought to their unlikely trio. Harry had come prepared with both magical and non-magical tools, his wand, yes, but also lock-picks Bruce had taught him to use, a small first aid kit Alfred had insisted he carry, and various Wayne tech prototypes disguised as ordinary objects. The series of obstacles confirmed Harry's theory about multiple protections: Hagrid's three-headed dog, soothed by Hermione's enchanted flute; Professor Sprout's devil's snare, defeated with Hermione's controlled fire spell; Professor Flitwick's charmed flying keys, captured by Harry using his seeker skills; and Professor McGonagall's giant wizard chess set, where Ron brilliantly sacrificed himself to secure their victory but was injured in the process. Get Ron to the hospital wing, Harry instructed Hermione after they passed Snape's logic puzzle, which had potions for moving forward and backward. Then owl Dumbledore. I'll go ahead and try to delay Quirrell until help arrives. Harry, be careful, Hermione urged, hugging him briefly before taking the potion that would allow her to return. Alone, Harry moved forward into the final chamber, where he found exactly who he expected, Professor Quirrell, standing calmly before the mirror of Erised with no sign of his usual stutter or nervousness. I wondered if I'd be seeing you, Potter, Quirrell said, his voice cold and confident, nothing like his classroom persona. The act was good, Harry acknowledged, maintaining distance while assessing the situation. But there were inconsistencies. The stutter that came and went. The timing of the troll incident. The way you move when you think no one's watching. Quirrell smiled thinly. Perceptive for a first year. Your reputation doesn't do you justice. It's not about the stone, is it? Harry said, circling slowly to keep Quirrell turning. Not really. It's about him. About Voldemort. The professor's face contorted with a mixture of fear and reverence. The Dark Lord shares my body. He has been with me since I encountered him in Albania. At first, I resisted, but his power, his vision. Let me speak to the boy, came a high, cold voice that seemed to emanate from Quirrell himself. What happened next tested every aspect of Harry's training. As Quirrell unwrapped his turban to reveal a terrifying face on the back of his head, Voldemort's face, distorted and snake-like, Harry fought to maintain his composure, to keep thinking strategically despite the horror before him. Harry Potter, the face whispered. See what I have become. Mere shadow and vapor, forced to share another's body. But once I have the elixir of life, I can create a body of my own. Why kill my parents? Harry asked, partly to keep Voldemort talking while he assessed options, partly because he genuinely wanted to know. Why come after me as a baby? Your father died protecting your mother and you, Voldemort said dismissively. Your mother needn't have died at all, she was trying to protect you. Now, enough talk. Give me the stone in your pocket. Harry was startled, he hadn't realized he had obtained a stone, but now felt its weight in his pocket. Somehow, when he had looked in the mirror of Erised, it had transferred the stone to him. Never, Harry said, dropping into a defensive stance Bruce had taught him. Seize him. Voldemort ordered, and Quirrell lunged forward. What followed was a desperate struggle combining everything Harry had learned from both worlds. When Quirrell's bare hands touched Harry's skin, they blistered and burned, some magical protection was still at work. Realizing this advantage, Harry grabbed Quirrell's face, causing the professor to scream in agony. Kill him! Kill him! Voldemort shrieked, but Harry maintained his hold, even as pain beyond anything he'd experienced seared through his scar. The last thing Harry saw before losing consciousness was Dumbledore bursting into the chamber, face set with a power and fury that made it clear why he was considered the greatest wizard of the age. Harry awoke in the hospital wing 3 days later to find Dumbledore sitting beside his bed. Good morning, Harry, the headmaster said gently. You've had quite an adventure. As Harry's mind cleared, questions tumbled forth, about the stone, about Ron and Hermione, about what had happened with Quirrell and Voldemort. Dumbledore answered patiently, explaining that the stone had been destroyed with Nicholas Flamel's agreement, that his friends were fine, and that Voldemort had fled when Dumbledore arrived, leaving Quirrell to die. But why couldn't Quirrell touch me? Harry asked, recalling the blistering effect of skin contact. Your mother died to save you, Dumbledore explained. If there is one thing Voldemort cannot understand, it is love. Love as powerful as your mother's leaves its own mark, not a scar, no visible sign, to have been loved so deeply, even though the person who loved us is gone, will give us some protection forever. Harry absorbed this, thinking of his mother's sacrifice, of Bruce's rescue from the Dursleys, of Alfred's steady care. Different kinds of love, all leaving their mark. Will he come back? Voldemort? Dumbledore's expression grew grave. I fear he will find other ways to return. He is still out there somewhere, perhaps looking for another body to share. After the headmaster left, Harry had another visitor, Bruce, who had been notified immediately after the incident and had arrived via emergency portkey. I should have been here, Bruce said, uncharacteristic emotion evident in his voice as he took in Harry's bandaged appearance. You were, Harry replied. Everything I did down there, the strategy, the observation, the hand-to-hand when magic wasn't enough, that was your training. Bruce placed a hand on Harry's shoulder. You did well. But next time, remember the communication protocols we established. The mirror would have alerted me immediately. There wasn't time, Harry explained. And honestly, I didn't expect to face Voldemort himself. I thought it would just be Quirrell. This led to a detailed debriefing, Bruce taking notes on everything Harry remembered about the encounter, particularly Voldemort's physical state and capabilities. Though concerned, Bruce was visibly proud of how Harry had handled himself. You integrated both worlds, he noted. Magical defenses with physical techniques. That's the approach that will serve you best moving forward. The end-of-year feast brought final surprises, Dumbledore awarding last-minute house points for the trio's actions that secured Gryffindor the House Cup. As red and gold decorations replaced Slytherin's green and silver, Harry felt a surge of belonging. Hogwarts had become a second home. On the train journey back to London, where Bruce and Alfred would meet him, Harry reflected on his extraordinary first year. He had arrived uncertain whether he could balance his two worlds, Wayne heir and wizard, detective in training and magical student. Now he understood that these weren't separate identities to choose between, but complementary aspects of who he was becoming. You'll write this summer, won't you? Hermione asked as they neared King's Cross. Both of you. Of course, Harry promised. And maybe you can visit Gotham. Both of you, he added, echoing her phrasing with a smile. I'd like you to meet Bruce properly. As the Hogwarts Express pulled into the station, Harry caught sight of Bruce and Alfred waiting on the platform, Bruce tall and imposing in an immaculate suit, Alfred dignified and proper beside him. They stood slightly apart from the wizard families, yet somehow belonging precisely because of their difference. Just as Harry belonged in both worlds, not half in each, but fully in both, creating something new at their intersection. Not just the boy who lived or Bruce Wayne's ward, but Harry Potter Wayne, forging his own unique path. The Wizard Knight was just beginning to rise. Chapter 3, The Wizard Knight Rises. The training dummy exploded into flames. Harry lowered his wand, frowning. Too much power again. But excellent precision, Bruce noted from the edge of the specially modified training area in the Batcave. You hit exactly where you aimed. Over the past 2 years, the cave had evolved to accommodate Harry's magical training alongside Bruce's equipment. One section now featured reinforced walls with magical absorption properties, custom designed based on research Bruce had conducted with Dumbledore's assistance. The area allowed Harry to practice combat spells without damaging sensitive equipment. At 13, Harry moved with a fluid confidence that merged the physical discipline Bruce had instilled with the magical prowess developed at Hogwarts. He extinguished the flames with a casual flick of his wand, then holstered it in the quick-draw wrist sheath Bruce had designed, dragonhide exterior with carbon fiber reinforcement. Again, Harry said, drawing a new dummy into position. I need to modulate the power without losing speed. Bruce checked the time. One more attempt, then we review the Dementor research. Harry nodded, refocusing. The news that had dominated the wizarding world all summer pulsed at the edges of his awareness. Sirius Black, mass murderer, Death Eater, betrayer of the Potters, had escaped from Azkaban prison. The first ever to do so. This time, Harry's spell hit with controlled precision, disabling the dummy without combustion. The stunner spell glowed momentarily at the target's center mass, then dissipated, exactly the result he'd been working toward. Better, Bruce acknowledged. Your magical output correlates directly with emotional state. You're learning to modulate both simultaneously. They moved to the computer station, where multiple screens displayed information about Dementors, the soul-sucking prison guards of Azkaban that would now be stationed around Hogwarts in search of Black. Bruce had compiled everything available from both magical and non-magical sources, wizard accounts of encounters, scientific analysis of temperature drops and emotional effects, theoretical models of how they might function. The Patronus charm remains the most effective defense, Harry said, reviewing the data. But it's notoriously difficult to master, especially under actual Dementor exposure when they're actively draining positive emotion. Which is precisely when you need it most, Bruce pointed out. A defensive measure that fails under pressure isn't reliable. Harry nodded, thinking. What if we approach it from both angles? Magical defense reinforced by psychological techniques. Bruce pulled up additional files. I've been researching trauma response and emotional compartmentalization. Special Forces soldiers and extreme environment operators maintain functionality under intense stress through specific mental conditioning. Like your meditation techniques, Harry observed. Creating mental architecture to process fear without being controlled by it. Exactly. If Dementors force victims to relive their worst memories and emotions, creating mental barriers and safe rooms might provide sufficient stability to execute the Patronus charm even under direct exposure. Harry absorbed this information, mentally combining it with the magical theory he'd studied. This was their standard approach now, attack problems from both worlds' perspectives simultaneously, finding solutions in the overlap. I'll start the mental conditioning tonight, Harry decided. Professor Lupin might be willing to help with practical Patronus training once term starts. Lupin, Bruce repeated. The new defense against the dark arts teacher. Harry nodded. According to Dumbledore's letter, he actually knew my parents. They were friends at Hogwarts. Something shifted in Bruce's expression, a barely perceptible tightening around the eyes that most people would miss entirely. Harry didn't miss it. What is it? He asked. Bruce hesitated, then pulled up a new file on the computer. I've been investigating the connections between Sirius Black, your parents, and their social circle. Lupin's name appears frequently. The screen displayed yearbook photos from Hogwarts circa 1977, for teenage boys with their arms around each other's shoulders, laughing at the camera. Harry recognized his father immediately. The resemblance between them had grown stronger as Harry aged. Beside him stood a handsome youth with careless elegance that Harry now knew was Sirius Black. On James Potter's other side was a smaller, nervous-looking boy, and completing the group was a teenager with prematurely lined features and watchful eyes. Remus Lupin, Bruce indicated the last boy. They called themselves the Marauders, your father, Black, Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew. His finger moved to the nervous boy. Pettigrew was another victim of Black's betrayal. After Voldemort killed your parents, Black hunted Pettigrew down and murdered him along with 12 Muggle bystanders. All they found of Pettigrew was a finger. Harry studied the image, a familiar hollow feeling expanding in his chest. Every new detail about his parents' lives and deaths was precious, yet painful, connecting him to a history he could never fully recover. So Professor Lupin was close with both my father and the man who betrayed him to Voldemort, Harry summarized, his voice carefully neutral. That's quite a complicated position. Which is why I've flagged him for close observation, Bruce confirmed. His history suggests he's trustworthy, Dumbledore certainly believes so, but connections to Black require caution. Harry nodded, compartmentalizing the emotional response to focus on strategic implications. I can use Lupin as a resource for both Patronus training and information about my parents, while monitoring for any unusual behavior related to Black. Just don't reveal too much about your own capabilities or suspicions, Bruce cautioned. Until we know more, maintain operational security. This was standard procedure now, treat all new contacts as potential intelligence sources but also potential threats until proven otherwise. The approach had served Harry well through his first 2 years at Hogwarts, particularly during the Chamber of Secrets incident the previous year, when he'd uncovered Tom Riddle's diary Horcrux and prevented Ginny Weasley's possession from turning fatal. Alfred's arrival interrupted their planning session. He carried a tray with protein shakes and sandwiches, his expression suggesting non-compliance with the offered nutrition would not be tolerated. "I believe growing young men require actual food, not merely strategic planning and spell practice," he announced, placing the tray on the console. "Even wizarding knights in training." Harry grinned, taking a sandwich. "Thanks, Alfred. Any news from upstairs?" "Indeed. An owl has arrived with your Hogwarts materials for the coming term." Alfred handed Harry an envelope, including permission forms for weekend visits to a village called Hogsmeade, requiring guardian signature. Bruce reviewed the form. Additional security implications. Hogsmeade is less protected than Hogwarts proper, but also valuable for intelligence gathering, Harry pointed out. It's the only fully wizarding settlement in Britain. Local residents might have information about Black that wouldn't circulate at Hogwarts. After weighing the risks and benefits, Bruce signed the form. Standard protocols apply. Regular check-ins, awareness of exit routes, emergency port key active at all times. Always, Harry agreed. After 2 years of juggling 2 worlds, these security measures had become second nature, as automatic as the way he subtly checked sightlines when entering any room or noted potential improvised weapons in his environment. As they finished their meal, Bruce addressed the final matter requiring attention before Harry's return to Hogwarts. The Daily Prophet is reporting increased Death Eater activity. Nothing coordinated enough to suggest organizational revival, but individual sightings have risen 30% since Black's escape. You think they're connected? That Black's escape is inspiring others? Possibly. Or they're responding to the same unknown stimulus. Bruce pulled up a map showing reported Death Eater sightings across Britain. I've enhanced the manor's magical defenses as a precaution. Dumbledore provided additional wards, and I've integrated them with our security system. Harry nodded, understanding the subtext. After 2 years of direct confrontations with Voldemort's legacy, first Quirrell, then the Diary Horcrux, they were taking no chances. Whatever form Voldemort's next attempt at resurrection might take, they would be prepared. One more training session before dinner, Bruce decided. Practical application, let's see how your spell precision holds in motion. Harry grinned, returning to the training area. This was his favorite part, dynamic combat scenarios combining magical and physical techniques. As automated training drones deployed around him, Harry drew his wand with one hand while dropping into a defensive stance Bruce had taught him. The first drone fired a harmless but visible energy pulse. Harry deflected it with a shield charm while simultaneously ducking a second attack from behind. He countered with a precisely aimed stunning spell, disabling the second drone before rolling sideways to avoid a third attack. Bruce observed with critical attention, noting how smoothly Harry transitioned between magical defenses and physical evasion. At 13, Harry had developed a hybrid fighting style entirely his own, neither purely wizard nor conventional martial artist, but something unique that maximized the advantages of both traditions. The session concluded with Harry disabling the final drone using a combination of misdirection, physical strikes, and well-timed spell work. His breathing remained controlled, his movements efficient. Your integration of systems continues to improve, Bruce noted as they shut down the training program. You're thinking beyond conventional magical responses. Harry nodded, wiping sweat from his forehead. Most wizards rely exclusively on spells, even when physical solutions would be more efficient. It creates exploitable blind spots. As they headed upstairs for dinner, Harry's mind was already mapping possibilities for his 3rd year at Hogwarts. Between Sirius Black, Dementors, and a new professor with connections to his parents, the coming term promised new challenges, and perhaps answers to questions about his past that remained elusive. Whatever came, Harry would face it with the combined resources of both his worlds. The boy who lived and the son of Batman, finding his own path between legacy and possibility. Platform 9 3/4 buzzed with the usual start-of-term excitement, though Harry noticed additional security this year, wizards in ministry uniforms discreetly positioned throughout the station, scanning faces and checking identifications. Sirius Black's escape had everyone on edge. "Remember the emergency protocols," Bruce said as they stood beside the Hogwarts Express. "The mirror connection is always open on my end." Harry nodded, conducting a final equipment check. His trunk contained the standard Hogwarts supplies alongside carefully concealed Batman-inspired gear, analyzer lenses disguised as reading glasses, a utility belt masquerading as a normal student belt, lockpicks hidden in his quill set, and various Wayne tech prototypes adapted for magical environments. "I've added something new," Bruce said, handing Harry what appeared to be an ordinary leather-bound journal. "Enchanted parchment linked to a counterpart in the cave. Anything you write appears on my end instantly, and vice versa. More reliable than Owl Post for sensitive information." Harry accepted the journal, recognizing it as Bruce's solution to their ongoing communication challenges. Magical interference often disrupted electronic devices, while Owl Post was too slow for urgent matters. "Thanks," Harry said, tucking the journal into his robes. "I'll use it for the Black investigation updates." Bruce placed a hand on Harry's shoulder, a rare public display of affection. "Be careful this term. Black's connection to your parents makes this personal, but don't let that cloud your judgment." "I won't," Harry promised. Objective analysis, verified facts, emotional distance from the case. A whistle sounded, signaling final boarding. With a quick goodbye to both Bruce and Alfred, Harry boarded the train, quickly finding the compartment where Ron and Hermione had saved him a seat. Their friendship had deepened over the past 2 years, strengthened by shared dangers and the gradual revelation of more details about Harry's unique upbringing. "Harry." Hermione greeted him with a hug. "How was your summer research project?" This was their code for his Batman training, which he had cautiously explained to his closest friends after the Chamber of Secrets incident proved their trustworthiness. "Productive," Harry replied, stowing his trunk. "Bruce helped me develop new approaches to the Dementor problem." Ron looked up from the chocolate frog he was unwrapping. "Still planning to learn the Patronus charm?" "That's seriously advanced magic, mate." "Necessary magic, given the circumstances," Harry countered, settling into his seat. "Have either of you actually encountered a Dementor before?" Both shook their heads. Hermione pulled out a book titled, Confronting the Faceless, opening to a chapter on Dementors. "They're supposed to be among the darkest creatures in existence. They feed on happiness and positive emotions, leaving nothing but despair. Long-term exposure can permanently damage the mind. And the Ministry thinks putting them around a school is a good idea," Ron said, shaking his head. "Mental, if you ask me." Their conversation was interrupted by the compartment door sliding open to reveal Professor Lupin, instantly recognizable to Harry from the photographs Bruce had shown him, though considerably more worn and gray than his teenage self. The man was asleep, his head leaning against the window. "Who's that?" Ron whispered. "Our new defense against the dark arts teacher," Harry replied quietly. "Professor R.J. Lupin." "How do you know?" Hermione asked, surprised. Harry tapped his temple in a gesture he'd unconsciously adopted from Bruce. "Observation. His name's on his briefcase, and Dumbledore mentioned a new defense professor in his last letter." While Lupin slept, they discussed the Sirius Black situation in careful terms, aware of the sleeping professor who had known both Black and Harry's parents. Harry shared the basic facts that were public knowledge, keeping Bruce's deeper investigation to himself until he could verify Lupin's allegiances. Hours into the journey, the train began slowing unexpectedly. Lights flickered and died, plunging the compartment into darkness as frost formed rapidly on the windows. "We can't be there yet," Hermione said, checking her watch. Harry felt it before he saw anything, a creeping cold that went beyond temperature, seeping into his bones and mind. The compartment door slid open, revealing a towering, hooded figure whose face was completely hidden beneath its hood. Its hand protruded from its cloak, glistening, grayish, and scabbed, like something dead that had decayed in water. The cold intensified unbearably. Harry heard screaming, a woman's voice, terrified and pleading, "Not Harry. Please, not Harry." Another voice, high and cold, "Stand aside, you silly girl, stand aside, now. Not Harry, please no, take me, kill me instead." Harry felt himself falling, the screaming growing louder in his mind. Through the encroaching darkness, he activated the mental defenses Bruce had helped him build, imagining secure walls around his consciousness, creating distance between himself and the memory the Dementor was forcing him to relive. The technique helped him maintain awareness even as the traumatic memory played out, but couldn't completely block the Dementor's effect. As his vision began to tunnel, he saw Lupin awaken, producing his wand and conjuring silvery light that drove the creature back. "Harry! Harry!" Hermione was slapping his face lightly. Harry blinked, finding himself on the floor of the compartment with Ron and Hermione kneeling beside him, faces pale with concern. "Are you okay?" Ron asked, helping him back onto the seat. "Yeah," Harry said, his voice steadier than he felt. "That was a Dementor," Professor Lupin confirmed, breaking a large chocolate bar into pieces. "One of the guards of Azkaban, searching the train for Sirius Black." He handed chocolate to each of them. "Eat this. It helps counteract the effects." Harry accepted the chocolate, analyzing what had just happened. Despite his mental preparation, the Dementor had overwhelmed his defenses, but not completely. He had maintained partial awareness throughout, which was better than losing consciousness entirely. "You had a particularly strong reaction," Lupin noted, watching Harry closely. "Dementors force us to relive our worst experiences. Given your history, your response isn't surprising." Harry met Lupin's gaze directly. "I heard my mother being murdered by Voldemort." Lupin flinched slightly at Voldemort's name, but his expression showed deep compassion rather than the fear most wizards displayed. "Your mother was one of the brightest witches I ever knew, Harry. And one of the kindest. She would be proud of your resilience." This personal connection to Lily Potter, spoken with such genuine emotion, made Harry reassess Lupin slightly. The man's grief seemed too raw, too honest to be feigned. As the train resumed its journey, Harry quietly documented the Dementor encounter in the journal Bruce had given him, noting his partial success with the mental barriers and Lupin's effective countermeasure. He included his preliminary assessment of Lupin himself, "Appears genuinely grieved by my parents' deaths. Skilled with anti-Dementor magic. Watching cautiously but suspending negative judgment." Hogwarts welcomed them with its usual magical spectacle, though the presence of Dementors at the gates cast a literal and figurative shadow over the proceedings. During the feast, Dumbledore warned students about the dangers the prison guards presented, specifically cautioning that they couldn't distinguish between their target and innocent bystanders. "They don't understand pleading or excuses," Dumbledore explained gravely. "I must warn each and every one of you to give them no reason to harm you." Harry absorbed this information tactically. Dementors operated on a different sensory system than humans, they detected emotions rather than visual identities. This created both vulnerabilities and potential advantages, depending on the situation. Their first defense against the dark arts lesson with Professor Lupin provided an opportunity to test the man's teaching style and knowledge. Rather than the theoretical approach of previous instructors, Lupin immediately engaged them with a practical lesson on boggarts, creatures that transformed into whatever the viewer feared most. "The key to defeating a boggart is laughter," Lupin explained. "You must force it to assume a shape you find amusing. The spell is simple, ridiculous, but the mental component is crucial." As students lined up to face the boggart, Harry analyzed each classmate's fear and response. Neville feared Snape, Ron feared spiders, Parvati feared mummies. Each revealed psychological insights Harry automatically catalogued, a habit from years of Bruce teaching him to understand potential allies and opponents through their vulnerabilities. When Harry's turn approached, Lupin unexpectedly intervened, stepping between him and the boggart. The creature transformed into a silvery orb that Lupin quickly turned into a deflating balloon with the ridiculous charm. Later, as they left class, Harry considered why Lupin had prevented him from facing the boggart. The obvious assumption was that Lupin feared the boggart would transform into Voldemort, creating panic in the classroom. But Harry suspected his own boggart might have revealed something more complex, perhaps Bruce injured or dead, or some manifestation of failure to protect those he cared about. Professor Lupin seems to really know his stuff, Ron commented as they headed to their next class. Definitely the most practical defense teacher we've had, Hermione agreed. Harry nodded. I'm going to ask him about advanced defense training, specifically the Patronus charm. For the Dementors? Hermione asked. That's incredibly difficult magic, Harry. Most adult wizards can't produce a full corporeal Patronus. Most adult wizards haven't had the training I have, Harry replied quietly. And most don't have my motivation. That evening, Harry approached Lupin's office, knocking firmly on the door. Come in, called Lupin's voice. The office reflected its occupant, organized but somewhat shabby, with fascinating magical instruments alongside well-worn books. Lupin himself sat behind his desk, grading papers. Harry, he greeted warmly. What can I do for you? I want to learn how to fight Dementors, Harry said directly. You used the Patronus charm on the train. I'd like you to teach me. Lupin studied him with interest. That's very advanced magic, Harry. Well beyond ordinary wizarding level. I understand that. But my reaction to the Dementors was extreme, and with Black supposedly targeting me, I need effective countermeasures. The professor considered this reasoning, then nodded slowly. Your approach is unusually tactical for someone your age. Most third years wouldn't analyze threats and responses so methodically. Harry maintained neutral expression. My guardian emphasized practical problem solving. Ah yes, Bruce Wayne. Lupin set down his quill. Dumbledore has mentioned him, quite an unusual arrangement for a wizarding child. I understand he's provided you with an exceptional education outside Hogwarts as well. This casual mention of Bruce put Harry on alert. He offered a non-committal response, he's taught me to approach challenges systematically. Indeed. Lupin seemed to be choosing his words carefully. You know, you remind me of your mother in some ways. Lily had that same analytical mind, she could break down complex magic into component parts and rebuild it to suit her needs. But there's something of your father in your determination too. Harry recognized the conversational redirect. Lupin was offering personal information about his parents as a trust-building mechanism. He decided to engage, both to gather intelligence and because he genuinely wanted to know more. What else can you tell me about them? From when you were at Hogwarts together? Lupin's expression softened with memory. Your father was brilliant at transfiguration, could turn just about anything into something else by our 5th year. And your mother was exceptional at charms and potions. She had this uncanny ability to see how magical elements would interact before combining them. For the next hour, Lupin shared stories about Lily and James Potter, painting a picture more detailed and personal than anything Harry had heard before. Unlike the reverent, distant accounts others provided, Lupin spoke of real people with quirks and flaws alongside their talents. James' occasional arrogance balanced by his fierce loyalty, Lily's temper that matched her red hair but also her capacity for forgiveness. Throughout the conversation, Harry watched for mentions of Sirius Black. Lupin referenced him obliquely a few times but seemed reluctant to discuss him directly, understandable given Black's betrayal, but potentially suspicious. As their discussion concluded, Lupin returned to Harry's original request. Regarding the Patronus charm, I can begin teaching you after the holiday break. It will require significant practice and concentration. Thank you, Professor, Harry said, rising to leave. I appreciate both the lessons and the stories about my parents. Lupin smiled sadly. They would be so proud of who you're becoming, Harry. Though I think they might be surprised by some aspects of your upbringing. The comment could have been innocent, but something in Lupin's tone suggested deeper meaning. Harry filed it away for further analysis as he returned to Gryffindor Tower. In the privacy of his four-poster bed, Harry updated Bruce through their enchanted journal, detailing his conversation with Lupin and his impressions of the professor. Bruce's response came quickly: "His knowledge of your parents provides valuable insight, but maintain awareness that his perspective will be influenced by his friendship with Black. Compartmentalize emotional responses to stories about your parents from tactical assessment of Lupin's reliability. Proceed with Patronus training, knowledge acquisition priority outweighs potential risks." Harry acknowledged the guidance, then added a new entry about his developing Dementor defense strategy, combining Bruce's mental compartmentalization techniques with what he'd learned about the magical requirements for the Patronus charm. The hybrid approach exemplified how he now operated, neither rejecting magical solutions nor relying on them exclusively. As September gave way to October, Harry established a routine that balanced regular classes, Quidditch practice, Patronus training with Lupin, and his own investigation into Sirius Black. Using research skills Bruce had honed in him, Harry systematically collected and analyzed everything available about Black's relationship with his parents and the events leading to their deaths. The official narrative was straightforward: Sirius Black had been the Potter's secret keeper under the Fidelius charm, a powerful spell hiding their location from everyone except the designated keeper. Black had betrayed their whereabouts to Voldemort, then later killed Peter Pettigrew and 12 Muggles when Pettigrew confronted him about the betrayal. But Harry had learned from Bruce to question official narratives, especially when they contained logical inconsistencies or evidentiary gaps. Several elements of the Black case troubled him. First, every account of James Potter and Sirius Black described them as inseparable friends, like brothers, according to Lupin. This made the betrayal psychologically incongruous. Second, Black had been sent to Azkaban without a trial, according to Ministry records Harry had accessed through discreet inquiries. Even Dumbledore, with his considerable influence, hadn't insisted on proper judicial process. Third, the timing was suspicious. Black had supposedly revealed the Potter's location on Halloween, yet visited the house after the attack, encountering Hagrid who was retrieving Harry from the ruins. If Black was working for Voldemort, why return to the scene? Harry documented these inconsistencies in the Enchanted Journal, developing multiple hypotheses to explain them. Bruce contributed additional questions and research directions, applying detective methodology to the magical mystery. Meanwhile, Harry's Patronus training with Lupin progressed steadily if not spectacularly. Using a Boggart transformed into a Dementor as a practice target, Harry worked to combine the magical requirements, a powerfully happy memory, with Bruce's mental discipline techniques. "You're approaching this differently than most wizards would," Lupin observed after one session, watching Harry methodically adjust his stance and focus. "Most simply try different memories until they find one powerful enough." Harry wiped sweat from his forehead. "I'm creating a mental architecture to stabilize emotional responses. The problem isn't finding happy memories, it's maintaining access to them under Dementor influence." Lupin looked intrigued. "That's quite sophisticated, Harry. Where did you learn about mental architecture?" "Bruce taught me meditation and focus techniques," Harry explained, keeping details minimal. "I'm adapting them for magical application." "Fascinating. Your guardian seems remarkably knowledgeable for someone without magical abilities." Harry shrugged. "He believes in understanding opponents' capabilities. When he learned about magic, he studied everything he could access." "Very thorough," Lupin murmured. "And somewhat unusual." These conversations with Lupin gradually revealed more about Harry's parents, and indirectly about Sirius Black. Harry learned that his father, Lupin, Black, and Pettigrew had called themselves the Marauders and were known for elaborate pranks often requiring complex magic. Lupin let slip that they had found ways around the castle that even Filch didn't know about, confirming Harry's suspicion that they had created the Marauders map Fred and George Weasley had given him. The map itself became a critical investigative tool. Its comprehensive display of Hogwarts, showing everyone's location in real time, allowed Harry to monitor movement patterns throughout the castle. He paid particular attention to unusual activities, especially around secret passages that might allow Black entry to the school. One evening, while scanning the map during a free period, Harry noticed something impossible: a dot labeled Peter Pettigrew moving along a corridor near Gryffindor Tower. He blinked, certain he'd misread, but the name remained. That can't be right, he muttered, grabbing his invisibility cloak. Pettigrew is dead. Slipping out of the common room, Harry followed the map's guidance toward Pettigrew's location. The dot moved erratically, finally stopping in an unused classroom. Harry approached cautiously, wand ready, invisibility cloak secure. The classroom appeared empty. Harry checked the map again. Pettigrew's dot showed him in this very room, seemingly occupying the same space as Scabbers, Ron's rat. What the? Harry began, then froze as another dot appeared on the map, moving rapidly toward his position, Severus Snape. Harry barely had time to tuck the map away before Snape entered, wand illuminated. Potter, Snape said silkily, spotting Harry despite his attempt to remain hidden. Out after hours again. Explain yourself. Harry's mind raced, evaluating options. The truth, that he was chasing a supposedly dead man who appeared to be a rat, would sound delusional. He needed a plausible excuse. I was meeting Professor Lupin for extra defense practice, he said, which was true earlier that evening if not currently. I got turned around heading back. Snape's eyes narrowed suspiciously. Empty your pockets, Potter. The partially visible corner of the Marauder's map protruded from Harry's pocket. Knowing it would incriminate him further, Harry reluctantly handed it over. What is this? Snape demanded, examining the apparently blank parchment. Spare parchment, Harry answered neutrally. Snape tapped the map with his wand. Reveal your secrets. To Harry's horror, words appeared on the parchment, but not the map itself. Instead, insulting messages in different handwriting styles materialized, addressing Snape directly. Mr. Mooney presents his compliments to Professor Snape, and begs him to keep his abnormally large nose out of other people's business. Mr. Prongs agrees with Mr. Mooney, and would like to add that Professor Snape is an ugly git. Mr. Padfoot would like to register his astonishment that an idiot like that ever became a professor. Mr. Wormtail bids Professor Snape good day, and advises him to wash his hair, the greasy slimeball. Snape's face contorted with fury. We'll see about this, he hissed, dragging Harry toward Lupin's office. The confrontation that followed revealed more than either professor intended. Lupin recognized the parchment immediately though pretended ignorance, protecting Harry by claiming the paper was a joke item from Zonko's. But Snape's reaction, pure hatred directed at Lupin rather than just Harry, suggested deeper history. That was a close one, Lupin said after Snape stormed out. He held the map, looking at it with unmistakable recognition. I don't want to know how you got this, Harry, but I am astounded that you didn't turn it in. Did it never occur to you that this might be dangerous in Sirius Black's hands? Harry met his gaze steadily. You know what it is. Lupin sighed. Yes. I helped create it, along with your father, and others. He hesitated, then added, Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, that's what we called ourselves. Schoolboy nicknames. You were Mooney, Harry deduced. My father was Prongs. Sirius Black was Padfoot. And Peter Pettigrew was Wormtail. Lupin's expression tightened. How did you? I saw Pettigrew's name on the map tonight, Harry interrupted. In the same location as Ron's rat, Scabbers. The color drained from Lupin's face. That's impossible. Peter is dead. The map never lies, Harry countered, quoting what Fred and George had told him. Which means either the map is malfunctioning, or Peter Pettigrew is alive, possibly disguised as or transformed into a rat. Lupin stared at Harry, visibly struggling with this information. You're thinking like an Auror, Harry. These analytical connections. I was taught to follow evidence, not assumptions, Harry replied, deliberately echoing Bruce's investigative mantra. And the evidence suggests the official story about Black and Pettigrew might be incomplete or inaccurate. After a long moment, Lupin seemed to reach a decision. I need to investigate this before jumping to conclusions. If, and it's a significant if, Pettigrew is somehow alive, it would change everything we thought we knew about that night. About Sirius Black's guilt, Harry pressed. Possibly, Lupin admitted reluctantly. But Harry, I must ask you to let me handle this. If there's even a remote chance you're right, the situation is far more complex and dangerous than you realize. Harry nodded, appearing to accept this directive while mentally formulating his own investigation plan. If Pettigrew was alive and hiding as Ron's pet, that created both opportunity and urgency. That night, Harry documented everything in the enchanted journal, including his suspicion that Scabbers might be an animagus, a wizard who could transform into an animal. Bruce's response came quickly, this changes the operational theory significantly. If Pettigrew faked his death, he may have framed Black. Investigate how long Ron's family has had the rat. Check if timeline matches Pettigrew's death. Approach with extreme caution, if Pettigrew is hiding, he's dangerous and desperate. Harry followed Bruce's guidance, carefully questioning Ron about Scabbers' history without revealing his suspicions. The information was revealing, the rat had belonged to Percy Weasley before Ron, and the family had owned him for 12 years, exactly how long Pettigrew had been supposedly dead. He's looking awful lately, Ron mentioned, concerned. Ever since we got back from Egypt. I think he's sick. When exactly did he start looking bad? Harry asked, maintaining casual interest. Around when Black escaped, actually, Ron realized. Weird coincidence, huh? Not a coincidence at all, Harry thought. If Scabbers was Pettigrew, Black's escape would terrify him, especially if Black knew the truth about who had really betrayed the Potters. Over the following weeks, Harry divided his attention between classes, Quidditch, continuing Patronus lessons, and discreet observation of Scabbers. The rat indeed appeared increasingly stressed, losing weight, missing patches of fur, constantly hiding. His breakthrough with the Patronus charm came unexpectedly during a session with Lupin. After dozens of attempts producing only silver vapor, Harry finally synthesized Bruce's mental techniques with magical focus. He built a mental fortress containing his strongest positive emotions, not just happy memories, but core values, his connection to Bruce and Alfred, his friendship with Ron and Hermione, his sense of purpose in both magical and non-magical worlds. Expecto Patronum, he cast, focusing through this mental architecture. Silver light erupted from his wand, coalescing into a magnificent stag that cantered around the classroom before dissipating. Outstanding! Lupin exclaimed, genuinely impressed. A fully corporeal Patronus, and in the form of a stag, no less. Is that significant? Harry asked, though he suspected the answer. Lupin's eyes shone with emotion. Your father's animagus form was a stag. We called him Prongs because of his antlers. This new connection to James Potter felt momentous, a thread linking Harry's magical development to his birth father's legacy while utilizing Bruce's training methods. The synthesis represented everything Harry was becoming, neither solely his parents' son nor simply Bruce's protege, but something unique formed at the intersection of these influences. The climactic events began unfolding on a seemingly ordinary day near term's end. Harry, Ron, and Hermione were visiting Hagrid, whose hippogriff Buckbeak had been sentenced to execution due to Lucius Malfoy's political maneuvering. As they left Hagrid's hut, Scabbers, who Ron had brought along, suddenly bit him and made a desperate break for freedom. Scabbers! Come back! Ron shouted, chasing after the fleeing rat. Harry pursued, suddenly alert to the strategic implications. If Scabbers was indeed Pettigrew, this panicked escape suggested something had triggered his survival instincts. As Ron caught the struggling rat, a massive black dog burst from the shadows, grabbing Ron by the arm and dragging him toward the Whomping Willow. Harry and Hermione gave chase, watching in horror as the dog pulled Ron through a hidden passage beneath the violent tree. That's not a normal dog, Harry said, drawing his wand. We need to follow them. Using knowledge from the Marauder's map, Harry located the knot that immobilized the willow, allowing them to enter the secret tunnel. It led to the Shrieking Shack, the supposedly haunted building at the edge of Hogsmeade. Inside, they found Ron on a dilapidated bed, clutching his broken leg with Scabbers still squirming in his hands. The black dog was nowhere to be seen, but a human figure emerged from the shadows, gaunt, filthy, with matted hair and sunken eyes, but unmistakably Sirius Black. Expelliarmus! Black croaked, using Ron's wand to disarm Harry before he could react. I knew you'd come for your friend. Your father would have done the same for me. Harry assessed the situation with Batman-trained precision. Black appeared weakened from Azkaban and months on the run, but his eyes held a feverish determination. Despite being disarmed, Harry had several concealed Wayne tech devices and his physical training to fall back on. If you're going to kill Harry, you'll have to kill us too. Hermione declared, stepping in front of Harry. Black's emaciated face contorted. Only one will die tonight. It was you, Harry said coldly. You betrayed my parents to Voldemort. I don't deny I betrayed them, Black responded, voice raw with emotion. But not as you think. Before Black could explain further, Professor Lupin burst into the room, wand raised. Harry tensed, preparing for conflict, but what happened next changed everything. After a tense exchange of questions confirming some private knowledge, Lupin lowered his wand and embraced Black like a brother. I don't believe it. Hermione screamed. You and him, you've been helping him all along. You're wrong, Lupin insisted. I haven't been helping Sirius. But I believe I know why he's here, and it's not to kill Harry. The explanation that followed matched the theory Harry and Bruce had been developing. Peter Pettigrew had been the actual secret keeper, not Black. Pettigrew had betrayed the Potters, then framed Black by killing the Muggles himself, cutting off his own finger, and transforming into a rat to escape. The map confirmed it, Lupin explained. Harry saw Peter on it. But why would you switch secret keepers without telling anyone? Harry demanded, still skeptical despite the alignment with his own suspicions. It was my idea, Black said hoarsely. A bluff. Everyone would suspect me, while Peter, who would suspect weak, talentless Peter? The final piece of evidence came when Lupin and Black forced Scabbers to reveal his true form. After a flash of blue-white light, where the rat had been squirming stood a short man with colorless hair and a pointed nose, unmistakably the same person from the photographs of the Marauders, though now balding and much older. Hello, Peter, Lupin said pleasantly, though his wand remained trained on the man. Long time, no see. What followed was a pathetic display of Pettigrew's attempts to maintain his cover story, contradicting himself repeatedly as he begged each person in the room for mercy. The truth emerged clearly, he had betrayed the Potters out of fear and weakness, then framed Sirius to save himself. You should have realized, Black said with quiet fury, if Voldemort didn't kill you, we would. Goodbye, Peter. Black and Lupin raised their wands, but Harry stepped between them and Pettigrew. Wait. Harry, this man, Sirius began. Is the reason I have no parents, Harry finished. I know what he is. But killing him won't bring them back. Bruce's voice echoed in his mind, the line they never crossed, the principle at the core of Batman's code despite all the darkness he faced. We'll take him to the castle, Harry decided. He'll go to Azkaban where he belongs. My father wouldn't have wanted his best friends to become killers for someone like him. The journey back through the tunnel was tense, Lupin and Ron both bound to Pettigrew to prevent his escape, Sirius supporting Ron's injured leg, Harry and Hermione with wands ready. Harry's mind raced with the implications of what they'd discovered. His godfather was innocent. The true betrayer was about to face justice. After 12 years, the truth about his parents' deaths would finally be known. But as they emerged onto the grounds, disaster struck. The full moon appeared from behind clouds, and Lupin, who had forgotten to take his wolfsbane potion in the excitement of discovering Pettigrew, began to transform into a werewolf. In the chaos that followed, Pettigrew escaped, transforming back into a rat and disappearing into the darkness. Sirius shifted to his dog form to protect the students from the werewolf Lupin, sustaining injuries in the process. And then, drawn by the commotion and heightened emotions, Dementors descended, dozens of them, converging on Sirius once he returned to human form. Harry felt the familiar cold spreading through him, heard his mother's screams beginning in his mind. But this time, he was prepared. Drawing on his training with Lupin and Bruce's mental techniques, Harry constructed his psychological defenses layer by layer, creating space for the powerful emotions needed for the Patronus charm. Expecto Patronum. The silver stag erupted from his wand with unprecedented power, charging the Dementors and driving them back from Sirius's unconscious form. Harry maintained the spell longer than he'd ever managed in practice, the Patronus galloping in widening circles around them, creating a barrier of pure positive energy that the Dementors couldn't penetrate. When the last Dementor retreated and Harry finally lowered his wand, exhausted, Hermione stared at him in amazement. "Harry, that was incredible. I've never read about anyone your age producing a Patronus that powerful." "It's not about age," Harry said, kneeling beside the unconscious Sirius. "It's about technique and focus." But their victory was short-lived. Without Pettigrew as evidence, Sirius remained a convicted murderer. Despite Harry, Ron, and Hermione's testimony, Minister Fudge refused to believe their story, dismissing it as confusions created by Black's powerful magic. Sirius was locked in Professor Flitwick's office, awaiting the Dementor's kiss, a fate worse than death, where the soul is sucked out leaving an empty shell behind. In Dumbledore's office, as the headmaster listened to their account, he offered a cryptic suggestion to Hermione about her time turner, the magical device she'd been using all year to attend multiple classes simultaneously. What followed was perhaps the most surreal experience of Harry's life, traveling 3 hours into the past with Hermione to save both Buckbeak and Sirius. The operation required precise timing, careful avoidance of their past selves, and strategic application of both magical and non-magical skills. Harry used the opportunity to discover the source of the powerful Patronus he'd witnessed saving him and Sirius from the Dementors by the lake. Expecting to see his father somehow, he instead realized a profound truth: he had seen himself. He had already cast the spell successfully in this timeline, which meant he could do it again. With Buckbeak rescued and Sirius freed from Flitwick's office, Harry watched his godfather prepare to flee on the Hippogriff. "I'll be forever grateful for this," Sirius said, gripping Harry's shoulder. "Your father would be proud of the man you're becoming." "Will I see you again?" Harry asked. "Count on it," Sirius promised. "You're my godson, after all. And when my name is cleared." He left the sentence unfinished, but the implication was clear: a potential future where Harry might have another family connection beyond Bruce and Alfred. As Sirius and Buckbeak soared away into the night, Harry felt both loss and triumph. Pettigrew had escaped, meaning Sirius would remain a fugitive for now. But the truth had been uncovered, and Harry had gained something precious, a living connection to his birth parents and confirmation that his hybrid approach to problems, combining Bruce's methods with magical techniques, could succeed even against overwhelming odds. The journey back to Gotham for summer break felt different this year. Harry had changed profoundly, his understanding of his past and future expanded in ways that would require careful processing. Bruce and Alfred met him at the station, instantly alert to his contemplative mood. "Eventful term?" Bruce asked as they drove toward Wayne Manor. Harry laughed softly at the understatement. "You could say that." Over dinner, he provided a comprehensive briefing on the Sirius Black situation, including his relationship to Harry as godfather. Bruce listened attentively, asking precise questions at key points and noting connections to their ongoing investigation into the events surrounding Voldemort's attack on the Potters. "So Pettigrew remains at large," Bruce summarized, "likely seeking Voldemort to regain protection." Harry nodded. "He knows Sirius will never stop hunting him now that the truth is out. His only safety lies with whatever remains of Voldemort. Which makes tracking Pettigrew our highest intelligence priority," Bruce concluded. "He could lead us directly to Voldemort's current location or form." Later, in the cave, they reviewed everything Harry had learned about advanced magical defenses, particularly his success with the Patronus charm. Bruce had modified the training area to simulate Dementor effects as closely as possible using environmental controls and psychological triggers. "Show me," Bruce requested. Harry closed his eyes briefly, establishing his mental architecture, the compartmentalized approach combining Bruce's training with magical focus. When he opened them, his expression held calm determination. Expecto Patronum. The silver stag erupted from his wand, more defined and powerful than ever, cantering around the cave before stopping beside Harry, lowering its majestic antlered head as if in greeting. "Prongs," Harry said quietly. "My father's animagus form." Bruce studied the Patronus with scientific interest and something deeper, pride mixed with a complex emotion Harry couldn't quite identify. "Your heritage and your training," Bruce observed, combined into something unique. The Patronus dissolved as Harry lowered his wand. "I'm starting to understand how to integrate both worlds properly, not just using magical and non-magical techniques separately, but finding the synthesis where they become more than the sum of their parts." Bruce nodded approvingly. "That's always been the goal, not to choose between these aspects of yourself, but to forge something new that honors both." Their summer training schedule intensified, focused now on preparing for whatever Voldemort's next move might be. Harry's physical conditioning and combat training continued alongside magical practice, with Bruce developing new joint protocols combining their respective skills. 3 weeks into summer break, the emergency came from an unexpected direction. Harry woke in the middle of the night to blaring security alarms. The manor's integrated magical and technological defenses had detected intruders breaching the outer perimeter. Alfred appeared at Harry's door as he was already pulling on clothes. "Master Bruce requests you join him in the cave immediately. We have unwelcome visitors." The cave's monitoring systems showed multiple figures in dark robes and masks moving through the grounds, Death Eaters, Voldemort's followers, attacking Wayne Manor directly. "How did they find us?" Harry asked, strapping on his utility belt while Bruce activated defense systems. "Unknown," Bruce replied tersely, pulling on his cowl. "But the timing suggests Pettigrew may have provided information about your location." The manor's magical defenses, layers of wards established by Dumbledore and enhanced by specialists Bruce had quietly hired, were holding for now, preventing direct apparition into the building. But the Death Eaters were methodically dismantling these protections, using dark magic to identify and target vulnerabilities. "They're coordinating their attacks," Harry noted, watching the security feeds. "This isn't random, it's a planned operation." Bruce nodded grimly. "Which means they have a specific objective beyond general terror." "Me," Harry concluded. "They want to capture me, probably to use against Sirius or as leverage for whatever Voldemort's planning. They'll have to get through us first," Bruce stated, his voice shifting to Batman's deeper register. He turned to Harry. "You remember Contingency Protocol Merlin?" Harry nodded. Protocol Merlin was their pre-established plan for magical attacks on Wayne Manor, a coordinated defense utilizing both Batman's technology and Harry's magical abilities. "Alfred, secure the panic room," Bruce instructed. "We'll engage the intruders and force them back beyond the secondary perimeter." "Very good, sir," Alfred replied calmly, though his expression betrayed concern as he looked at Harry. "Do be careful, young sir." Harry offered a reassuring smile. "I've been preparing for this, Alfred." "We both have." As Alfred retreated to the manor's most secure location, Bruce and Harry moved into position. Bruce as Batman with his full arsenal of non-magical equipment, Harry with his wand and specialized Wayne tech gear designed to function in magical environments. "Remember," Bruce said as they prepared to engage, "they expect conventional magical defenses. Our hybrid approach gives us tactical advantage." Harry nodded, adrenaline sharpening his focus. "They won't expect Batman." Their counterattack began with Bruce remotely deactivating sections of the manor's exterior lighting, plunging selected areas into darkness. As the Death Eaters adjusted to the changed conditions, Batman struck from the shadows, a nightmare of black cape and precision strikes that took down 2 masked figures before they could react. Harry moved simultaneously, using controlled bursts of magic combined with the physical techniques Bruce had drilled into him for years. His disarming charm sent a Death Eater's wand flying while his follow-up sweep kick took the man's legs from under him. The Death Eaters regrouped quickly, firing killing curses that illuminated the night with sickly green light. Batman evaded with acrobatic precision, while Harry blocked with conjured physical barriers rather than magical shields, a technique that confused opponents expecting standard wizard dueling approaches. "It's the boy," shouted one Death Eater. "Forget the Muggle, take Potter alive." Their focus on Harry created openings for Batman, who exploited their magical tunnel vision ruthlessly. Smoke pellets, batarangs, and grappling lines disrupted spell casting and separated targets for individual neutralization. Harry, meanwhile, demonstrated how thoroughly he'd integrated his training. When a Death Eater closed to point-blank range, Harry didn't panic or rely solely on magic, he transitioned seamlessly to physical combat, using the man's momentum against him before applying a stunning spell at contact range. The battle flowed across the manor grounds, with Batman and Harry working in coordinated patterns they'd practiced countless times. They communicated through minimal gestures and pre-established signals, each anticipating the other's movements with practiced precision. When three Death Eaters cornered Harry near the greenhouse, Batman's batarang intercepted the lead attacker's wand hand. Harry used the distraction to cast a powerful reductor curse at the glass ceiling above them, then shielded himself as tempered safety glass rained down, disorienting his opponents. "Batman, behind you!" Harry shouted as a previously concealed Death Eater emerged with wand raised. Batman dropped instantly as Harry's stunning spell flew over him, striking the Death Eater square in the chest. The synchronized maneuver demonstrated their perfect trust and coordination. The tide turned decisively when Harry employed his Patronus, not against Dementors this time, but as a psychological weapon. The brilliant silver stag charged through the battlefield, its light disorienting the Death Eaters accustomed to darkness and shadow. "What magic is this?" one Death Eater gasped, momentarily transfixed by the Patronus bearing down on him, just long enough for Batman's strike to render him unconscious. As their numbers dwindled, the remaining Death Eaters retreated beyond the property line, where several disappeared with the distinctive crack of apparition. Batman and Harry secured those who had fallen, using both magical bindings and Wayne tech restraints to ensure they couldn't escape. In the aftermath, as dawn broke over the manor grounds, Harry surveyed the scene with grim satisfaction. 6 captured Death Eaters, no civilian casualties, and minimal property damage considering the scale of the attack. They weren't expecting resistance like this, Harry noted as Bruce removed his cowl, the immediate danger past. Their tactics assumed conventional magical defenses, not Batman and a trained fighter with magical abilities. Bruce nodded, examining one of the captured wands. "They underestimated our preparation and integration. That's an advantage we should maintain." Orders from the American Department of Magical Law Enforcement arrived shortly after, alerted by the manor's security systems. They were visibly surprised to find half a dozen subdued Death Eaters and a calm 13-year-old wizard working alongside Batman. Mr. Wayne, the lead Auror, acknowledged Bruce with professional respect after Dumbledore arrived to facilitate introductions. "We received intelligence about potential Death Eater activity in the area, but clearly you had matters well in hand." The questioning that followed revealed the attack's purpose. The Death Eaters had been ordered to capture Harry and bring him to a rendezvous point in Albania, where Voldemort was rumored to be gathering strength. The operation had been planned by higher-ranking Death Eaters still at large, with information allegedly provided by the Dark Lord's faithful servant, who had recently returned to him. Pettigrew, Harry concluded after the Aurors departed with their prisoners. "He's found Voldemort and is helping him prepare for some kind of return. The attempt to capture you suggests Voldemort wants you specifically," Bruce observed. "Not just dead, but present for whatever he's planning." Dumbledore, who had remained to help reinforce the manor's magical protections, nodded gravely. "I fear you may be right, Bruce. Voldemort's connection to Harry has always been unique." "Then we need to be uniquely prepared," Harry said with quiet determination. Later, after Dumbledore departed and the manor was secure again, Harry found Bruce in his study, reviewing security footage from the attack and making notes for system improvements. "We worked well together," Harry observed, taking a seat across from him. "Better than I expected in a real combat situation." Bruce nodded, a rare smile briefly crossing his features. "Your integration of magical and physical techniques was seamless. You've progressed significantly." "Because of your training," Harry acknowledged. "And because I've finally stopped seeing my worlds as separate." Bruce set aside his notes, giving Harry his full attention. "What do you mean?" "For years I've been straddling two identities, magical Harry Potter and Bruce Wayne's ward. Trying to fulfill expectations from both sides." Harry leaned forward, eyes intense. "But tonight showed me I don't have to choose. I can be something new that incorporates both legacies." "What are you proposing?" "A new identity," Harry said decisively. "Not just Batman's magical protege or the wizarding world's chosen one. Something that bridges both worlds, using everything you've taught me alongside my magical abilities." Bruce studied him thoughtfully. "You're talking about a vigilante identity." "A guardian," Harry corrected. "Operating in both worlds when needed. The Death Eaters weren't expecting to face Batman tonight, and they certainly weren't expecting a wizard who fights like you trained him." "It would be dangerous," Bruce cautioned, though Harry detected consideration rather than rejection in his tone. "Exposing yourself to threats from both worlds." "I'm already a target in both," Harry pointed out pragmatically. "At least this way, I define my role rather than having it thrust upon me by prophecy or circumstance." The conversation continued long into the night, with Bruce raising practical concerns about magical law enforcement, exposure risk, and operational security. Harry countered with carefully considered solutions, demonstrating the strategic thinking Bruce had cultivated in him. By dawn, they had reached an agreement. Harry would develop a new identity under Bruce's guidance, a unique synthesis of his wizarding heritage and Batman's methodologies. Not a sidekick, but a complementary force with his own approach and focus. Over the remaining weeks of summer, between continued training and enhanced security measures, Harry worked on his new persona. The costume combined magical and technological elements, enchanted fabric providing protection against both physical and magical attacks, with integrated Wayne tech components that function despite magical interference. The result was neither purely wizard nor conventional vigilante, but something new, a dark blue and silver outfit with a hooded cloak reminiscent of wizarding robes but cut for maximum mobility. The mask covered the upper portion of his face, concealing his identity while leaving his mouth free for incantations. His lightning scar remained visible, a deliberate choice representing acceptance of his past while defining his own future. For weapons, Harry carried his wand in a quick-draw holster, supplemented by modified batarangs enchanted to disrupt magical energies and various specialized devices Bruce had developed for countering magical threats. On his final night before returning to Hogwarts, Harry stood in the cave fully outfitted in his new identity, facing Bruce who wore the Batman suit minus the cowl. "What will you call yourself?" Bruce asked, inspecting the final adjustments to Harry's equipment. Harry considered the question that had occupied him for weeks. The name needed to honor both sides of his heritage while establishing something distinct. "The Wizard Knight," he finally answered. "Guardian of both worlds." Bruce nodded approvingly. "It suits you." That night, they patrolled Gotham together for the first time, Batman and the Wizard Knight, moving across rooftops and through shadows with synchronized precision. They stopped a weapons shipment at the docks, the criminals unprepared for conventional takedowns augmented by strategically applied magic. When one gunman took a hostage, Harry used a combination of disillusionment charm and silent movement to position himself behind the threat, disarming him with a whispered "Expelliarmus" that sent the weapon flying into Batman's waiting hand. After the criminals were secured for police pickup, they stood on a high rooftop overlooking the city, Batman's city that had become Harry's too. "How does it feel?" Bruce asked. Harry considered the question, feeling the weight of both costume and responsibility. "Right," he finally said. "Like finding a missing piece." Bruce placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture of pride and partnership. Your parents would be proud of who you're becoming. All of them. The statement encompassed everything: Lily and James Potter's sacrifice, Bruce's guidance, even Sirius's recent influence, all threads woven into the person Harry was forging himself to be. "Thank you," Harry said simply. "For everything." As they returned to the cave near dawn, Harry reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From the frightened child in a cupboard to the wizard knight standing beside Batman, an evolution made possible by Bruce's decision 7 years ago to rescue a boy being dragged through a shopping center. The path ahead remained uncertain. Voldemort was gathering strength. Pettigrew was helping him. The Death Eater attack proved Harry remained a primary target. His 4th year at Hogwarts would undoubtedly bring new challenges and threats. But for the first time, Harry felt fully prepared, not just with skills and equipment, but with identity and purpose. He was Harry Potter Wayne, the boy who lived in Bruce Wayne's son, wizard and detective, Hogwarts student and Gotham guardian. The Wizard Knight had risen, bridging two worlds that had previously seemed incompatible. Whatever came next, he would face it as his true self, not defined by others' expectations or prophecies, but by the values and connections he had chosen and forged. Batman had shown him that fear could be conquered and used as a weapon against those who would spread it. The wizarding world had given him power and connection to his origins. Together, these influences had created something entirely new, a protector with feet planted firmly in both realms, ready to defend those who couldn't defend themselves against threats magical and mundane. As the first light of dawn touched Wayne Manor, Harry knew with certainty, this was just the beginning. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.